Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the town trustees. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for coming. This is the 1 p.m. meeting called to order on August 16th, 2021. And with Secretary Treasurer, please call the roll.
President Eric Schultz.
Present.
Secretary Treasurer Horowitz, I'm obviously here. Trustee Ed J. Warner Jr.
Present.
Trustee William Pell IV.
Present.
Trustee Ann Welker.
Here.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Great. Announcement, the next work session will be on Wednesday, September 1st, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. And the next regularly scheduled meeting will be on Wednesday, September 1st, 21 at 1 p.m. We have a minutes acceptance, trustees' regular meeting of August 2nd, 2021 at 1 p.m.
Second it.
Any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I'm good with it.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Bill seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Jess.
Okay, very good. Yeah, thanks for
Jess, for hard work.
speedily getting that up. Okay. You want to skip the discussions and go right to the public hearings?
Yes,
Seems
I'd
to be a
like
lot of
Yeah, we
people.
should do that. There's a lot of people
Want
here.
to take it out of order?
Yeah, we'll take this out of order. Make a motion to take it out of order and go to the public hearing for 65 Cliff Drive. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing for 65 Cliff Drive.
Second.
Scott seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The applicant has requested an adjournment, so they're not going to be here, but we're going to hold public comments. So, who wants to be first? Is there anybody here to make any comments on 65 Cliff Drive?
See the
You
bega-
want
I see
the
the-
hearing first?
Yeah, it's open.
What?
We're open.
Yes, open.
I see Mr. McAllister from Defend H2O is here.
I think he wants to.
Who wants to be first?
Mr. McAllister?
Excuse me? Oh, okay.
I know Mr.
All right,
McAllister
let me
said
move the
a letter.
microphone a little bit closer. So we open the meeting for 65 Cliff Drive. Does anyone have any comments on it?
Kevin has comments.
Okay, you're adjusting it in there? Oh, okay.
Kevin sent us a letter on it, so I know he's concerned about it.
Kevin McAllister from Defend H2O sent a letter in. Did you wish to speak on this? Okay.
If you want, Kevin, you can read your letter in.
No. I'll speak to it.
You sure you don't want to write it in? But might, that way we have it on our minutes.
Well, let the secretary read it.
Okay,
Is that what you prefer to do?
We have
go
it.
ahead.
You
go ahead.
Who's going to read it?
He's the secretary.
All right, so we did get a letter, right?
For the record, I'm Kevin McAllister. I'm founder and president of Defend H2O.
All right, so the Dear Board of Trustees, I write to inquire about delay with fulfilling my FOIL request for 65 Cliff Drive LLC while the required acknowledgement was received promptly following submittal, see below, and there's been no transgression of FOIL standards. I'm curious why 20 business days are needed to produce files where inspection only was requested. Your office response is in stark contrast with Land Management Environmental, which produced the requested files within 1 business day. Moreover, both offices were given the heads up of my automated filing with the town clerk. More important is the substance of the matter. I was taken aback while watching the Board of Trustees meeting some weeks ago, where an applicant's presentation of the subject property proposal was met with what I perceived as a favorable response. Proposal to reinstall bulkhead and backfill a wetland area with dredge material from the fronting tidal flat located in Paynes Creek and inroad to creating a navigable channel in an area which was afforded greater protection through prior land acquisition and the installment of a conservation covenant on the subject property facilitated by Mr. Shea's office during the property redevelopment permitting process. Board approval of such actions is at cross purposes with town conservation objectives, with growing concerns that the trustees are prioritizing property owner interest over natural resources protections. Perhaps it's time for the board to reflect on its fundamental purpose and performance. Politicians overseeing environmental permitting in an inherent conflict of interest. If property owner interest is in fact the new standard, then I strongly urge the board to consider relinquishing permitting authority over such matters. As an involved party, I've included Mr. Marty Shea in his communication, as well as Mr. Joe Shaw, because of his demonstrated commitment with seeing fully transparent and timely public access to government-held documents through FOIL processes. Thank you for your consideration to this matter. Kevin McAllister, founder and president. So for the record,
Okay. Thank you, Scott. And further, for purposes of my qualifications, I know the board's aware of this. I have degrees in biological sciences, marine biological sciences, natural resources, an advanced degree in coastal zone management. Over 30 years of professional experience in resource protection. A number of those years is in permit review. I've written Wetlands Protection Code, I've written Coastal Management Code, and I've been on both sides of the permitting realm, both submitting permits as well as reviewing permits. And I'll speak to the first point, which is the FOIL request. And as Mr. Horowitz indicated, my response to planning was responded within 1 business day. I've already reviewed the files. So I'm a bit at a disadvantage. Here we are probably a couple weeks in. I think it was the 27th of July when that was provided to the town clerk. I gave both planning as well as the trustees a courtesy of an email, a heads up, notifying that I was seeking this information. To date, those files have not been produced by the trustees. My understanding is the trustees are short-staffed, the department, and I just find that very curious when looking at the adjournments of this process. You know, clearly that file is front and center in front of this board. So the notion that you can't go to a corner file provided, I didn't ask for copies. This is not burdensome to staff. This is purely to review, to ensure that I'm speaking factually about the application. So again, I'm in, quite frankly, disbelief that the records have not been produced. As to the substance, in reviewing land management, it was clear that a covenant was placed on this property. And as I understand it, low sill bulkhead was removed with some at least restoration or minor restoration work on the transitional zone. Hearing, I believe it might have been the May meeting, now looking at the adjournments, it was in fact you, Mr. Horowitz, that in my perception responded very favorably to the applicant's proposal. And again, not being clear with the details, not seeing the actual application. But my understanding is reinstallment of a bulkhead, perhaps low sill bulkhead. I heard the discussion about dredging, that navigation is impeded in this area, shoaling, as well as backfilling associated with this. Now, this is a gross regression with the covenant that's in place with land management. And I think Mr. Shea sought that covenant to be proactive and progressive in coastal management. And you've heard me speak. You have received countless emails that I send you directly, and I know each and every one. These are not blasts out to nether space. This is specifically to people that I believe have interest in reading material that I send, as well as receiving the commentary associated with that, that information. Sea level is rising. We need to adapt to it. This particular property or this stretch, you could see from the aerials. I've reviewed the aerial photos on the Suffolk County's GIS, so I've gone through all of the photographs. You can see circa 1960s, I think it might be the first photo is either 62 or 64. You can see a distinctive dredge cut through that area. We're talking decades ago. For all intents and purposes, this is absolutely new dredging. This area with conservation land on the opposite side, as well as efforts by Mr. Shea's office to ultimately recover and allow for adaptation concepts to take place here. This would be a regression. And then I heard discussion, of course, that navigation is important. Well, again, we're looking at the time frame. And I hate to use, an analogy. It's not an analogy. Sins of the past. We recognize what the problems were in the past, some of the mistakes we had. We can't repeat them. So again, while conservation or planning is moving forward in adaptation principles, this board is contemplating a pretty severe action that undoubtedly will reverse things for decades. It's gone. You go down this road, you issue this permit, you might as well give it up. And from my experience in permitting and understanding what the motives are behind this, this isn't about getting the paddleboard out there. This is about parking boats behind bulkheaded properties with, again, a certainty of property values increasing and navigation. And as far as water quality improvements, you know, I watched that some years ago addressing some of these dredge cuts going through, we'll call it virgin bottomland, that all of a sudden out of the blue came, oh, this is about water quality. No, this isn't about water quality. This area is slowly but surely recovering. And if, by virtue of the bulkhead removal, if that is a restored transitional zone, that's a positive thing. So I guess I urge the board here, reject this application out of hand. You're in contradiction, certainly, of the purposes. To the last part of my letter, I've watched in disbelief, quite frankly, the number of permits that have been issued by this board where you withhold or stand by the notion that this is about public interest and public access. We are losing public access at an alarming rate. The natural resources are going by the wayside, and this would be a clear indication of, again, just a major backslide. So really, that's all I have to add on this. I'm sure others may come up and try to rebut what I have to say, the guns for hire. But, you know, do the right thing here. Thank you.
Okay, so let me address a few points on that as far as the FOIL goes. The staff is understaffed, but bear in mind that this is under a lot of scrutiny by a lot of different attorneys, and there's possible litigation issues in this, and until the file is completely reviewed, that any other prejudicial information should be coming out of it as far as the attorneys, then you'll be able to review the file. But basically, everything has been on the record here, and you'll get the information. I understand, but... Okay, go ahead.
Eric, you have to clarify for me because are you saying that because of potential litigation or litigation that is currently in the works that you're precluding me viewing the file?
No, I'm saying that we have to go review the file to take out anything that would be prejudicial to our...
I think what the president's trying to say is the
litigation.
file needs to be reviewed for confidential information.
Right.
The trustees have met their obligation under Freedom of Information Act. They sent a response within the statutory timeframe, and they are currently working on assembling their response.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But, you know, bear in mind that Mr. Shea has almost 5 to 7 people at his disposal at any given time, and we have one basic part-timer. I'd like the town to give us some more resources, but that's not really coming. As far as your comment about, you know, access, you know, we recognize that that is one of our prime missions also in this town, to realize that we are part of the environment also. It's not always the environment. And third, this is not reissuing a new permit. Marty Shea went out of his jurisdiction to force the homeowner to remove a bulkhead and then put restrictive covenants on the situation. If the homeowner had come in and asked us to do something with the bulkhead, we would have followed suit, which we have done in 99.9% cases in this town, is to have them cut it down to a low sill bulkhead, as we've done in many other areas, and plant it, because if these people who have the right to come in for a dredging permit in the future, that need, at the mouth of this canal, it needs to be stabilized. We had a meeting with the DEC down there to coordinate efforts so there wouldn't be a contradiction, you know, in the permits. And they're actually advocating a higher bulkhead than us. Okay, it was totally out of his jurisdiction to remove a functioning bulkhead. And there's photographic documentations as well as distinctive landmarks that are there that prove that a large amount of sand has been lost and entered that mouth of the canal, therefore reducing the water flow into that canal. So this board has not issued any new bulkheads in years. I mean, can you remember anyone, Ed?
In the time I've been on the board.
And the time he's been on the board. And as far as my qualifications, I've been in town hall for 47 years, serving on the Conservation Board and the Planning Board, and as president of this board for a number of years. So, we take these issues very seriously, and we are working with the DEC to come up with some common sense solution to this, to stabilize the shoreline, replant it, and now we are awaiting an attorney and a surveyor after the meeting with the DEC to come up with a unified approach of how we're going to stabilize this shoreline and also recognize the environmental concerns
Protect the surrounding tidal wetlands.
and the rights of the people to get to navigable water. So that's where we are right now. So there might be involved litigation with the town for forcing them to take the bulkhead out. There might be litigation from the adjoining homeowners. There might be litigation from environmental groups. This is a very complex issue, and we're working through it. Anybody else have anything? Aaron?
Good afternoon. My name is Aram Tertunian. I'm an environmental scientist and coastal geologist from West Hampton Beach, New York. The name of my firm is First Coastal. I'm here on behalf of the neighboring property owners. I won't belabor you with a rendition of my 40 years of environmental service. If you'd like a copy of my CV, I'll send it along. Let's get right to the heart of the issue. Although some people want to make this complicated, this is a very, very straightforward situation. An action was taken that has had an environmental impact, and remediation is necessary to restore the system to the condition that existed prior to the illegal action. It's really just that simple. We've submitted volumes of data from licensed hydrographic surveyors, as well as my own expertise, which clearly displays the level of remediation necessary. That in and of itself is not very complicated either. I'm very pleased to hear that the board is working in concert with the DEC and coming up with a unified plan. I understand these things take time. My clients are patient, but not, their patience obviously, like everyone else's, has a limit. So we urge the applicants and the board and the DEC to move with haste to complete this process. Just to address Mr. McAllister's comments, I would just say, I'm in disbelief as well. However, my disbelief is from, his myopic, single-purpose view of the world. This board is charged with balancing, just like every other board is. And coastal zone management is all about balancing. There are many stakeholders involved. The issues have been generally discussed here. The burden is on this board to show that they respect those stakeholders' point of view, they move forward in an environmentally responsible manner, and that people come out of this situation at least as good as they were before the illegal action. So I would urge you to ignore the single-minded, fanatic, single-purpose point of view and continue doing the balancing job with which you are charged. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
George Colatides, homeowner. Thank you, board. I don't know that we need to belabor it because I think Aram has done a fantastic job of taking what is an incredibly simple situation that is trying to be complicated and boiling it down to its simplicity. The bulkhead was illegally removed. I don't think anybody in this room, anybody in the country doesn't have a strong concern for the environment, but this was an illegal action. and the concern for the environment is not relevant to the illegal action that was taken on this piece of property. So I think incredibly well said, Ram. We need to draw balance and take into consideration all of the constituents and their desires to achieve that. Unclear if this gentleman is here as an individual or representing his organization. He references his organization. I know nothing about the organization. I know nothing about how it's capitalized. I don't know who contributes to it. He suggests that he's here to represent a group. I don't believe that to be a legitimate organization with real funds behind it or real environmental capabilities. And so unclear to me how this gentleman determines that this is an issue for him or for his organization, and I don't think he makes particularly strong claims to that, other than he has a relationship with Marty Shea. And so he's here to do Marty Shea's bidding. He's a disgraced former public employee, and I don't think that we need to put any respect forward towards that.
Just address the board, please. Just
I am
address
addressing the
us.
board.
Okay.
So I appreciate your time. We are patient. We do want balance. We want to do the right thing for the environment. We want to do the right thing for the homeowners. We've been incredibly flexible, incredibly patient, incredibly understanding. We really appreciate your hard work and your support, and we look forward to resolving this matter. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
How are you? Robert McHugh. I guess I'm the senior member on Cliff Drive. First time speaking. I want to congratulate my neighbors who've done a great job with this. This will be 2 years, I believe, October. Just checking my calendar, I can't believe it's this long. What I can say, 60 years almost on Cliff Drive. There was a bulkhead since I was born there. We were told as kids, stay off of that little bulkhead. It serves a purpose. That was my aunt who bought the house. We treat it as such. To the west of my house, beautiful wetlands. The east side where the homes are, there's 4 homes next to 65 Cliff. 4 of our homes. There was a bulkhead, beautiful bulkhead on the east side. West side is beautiful wetlands. You talked about this, the symbiosis, that's it. We had 2 beautiful sides. I still can't believe that that was removed, that mouth of the canal. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm not a biologist, I'm not an environmentalist, but I believe in a beautiful environment. How that got removed, and what I saw, the pictures I've seen over almost 2 years now, tie rods in the water that we all visited. I think you guys were all out there, and gals, correct? It's hard to even put words to it. I don't understand how that could be pulled out. Obviously, it's sealing off. We've all seen that now. This is going to be a swamp and muckland. I don't know the beauty in that. Like I said again, there's wetlands to the west, beautiful, untouched. We don't touch. The low sill bulkhead serves its purpose. The wetlands, we have it set there. I don't know why there was a change at all. That's all I have for you guys.
We don't know either.
All right? That's it.
Would you
Thanks for
mind
your time.
signing in? I'm sorry.
Yes, sign in, please.
Did you sign in? Just so I can spell your name.
I could go on. We used to have ducks come through there. I haven't seen a duck in years now. Every day. Ducks, swans, steady flow of water, low and high tide. I think at low tide now, it's muck. Can't even see the water come in. It doesn't seem like it's an even game.
Okay.
All right,
Anyone
thank
else?
you.
Oh, okay. Hey, can you pull the microphone? You'll just push it down a little bit. There you go.
That's good. That's been very helpful.
Thanks a lot, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, hi, Vito Saladino, 55 Cliff Drive. I've only lived there, I've only had the house for about 5 years, but in the past 2 years, we went from having water flowing back and forth all the time to now, it's like It's like mucky, it smells when it's low tide. I mean, I don't know, the water conservation guy that just talked, he's not conserving water, he's messing up the water. And ever since they removed that bulkhead on that 65 house, the thing's just been downhill. I mean, you guys are trying your best, but those people that own the property got to fix up the problem. I mean,
They're willing to do it.
yeah, okay, well, thanks to your help and to Tiffany, you guys are doing a good job, and hopefully it gets rectified soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming to
Thanks for
support.
coming.
Thank you for all your help.
Yep, Thank you.
Thanks for the, thank you for coming even with the inconvenience of the elevator.
No problem.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Tiffany Gavin, 53 Cliff Drive. That property was contained for 54 years before Marty Shea made a trade deal. Mr. McAllister runs Defend H2O. On his website, it states the value of free-flowing clean water. But yet, he stands here opposing remediation to get water flowing, and he states he has zero facts. Defending the water is in the name of his company. He should be here and speaking in support of remediating this area. Here are a few facts. Marty Shea orchestrated this disaster area, resulting in a landslide that has been contained for 54 years with a functioning bulkhead, allowing the property to fall into a 70-year navigable tidal canal, where it currently sits and grows since October of 2019. It stops low tide water flowing, threatening high tide, stopping navigation, harming properties and sea life. Land that had been contained with a 3-foot-high functional bulkhead for 54 years until Marty Shea traded its removal for significant lesser wetland building setbacks, allowing for the installation of a pool 50 feet from wetlands. Never was that land tested for contamination. Never were any stipulations outlined to prevent that property from eroding and falling into the mouth of a navigable tidal canal. No evidence of any planning to prevent negative impacts. Nothing. Martin Shea denied the public the right to hear that he, an employee of the town, was going to create a new environment. One man, creating a new environment. He steps outside of his jurisdiction, and when the negative impacts of his trade was brought to attention, he ignored the many violations, reporting in an analysis report that there was no noticeable change to that site. That shoreline changed within 2 months of the bulkhead removal, illegal removal. He approved it on a site plan that shows a straight contained shoreline. This is what that shoreline looks like now. Any change to plan is a violation, ignoring his responsibilities then and now. Residents who do pull the proper permits are held to a completely different standard. What Martin Shea orchestrated here sounds like everything Mr. McAllister purports he opposes. I'm unclear what relevance Mr. McAllister has being here. He claims on the Defend H2O website and has been quoted saying the value of clean flowing water. Let me show you what the water looks like in our canal, lest Mr. McAllister understands. This is what the water looks like in what our canal once was a thriving with water. When I saw Mr. McAllister here, I assumed, being what he says he wants, healthy, thriving wetlands and unobstructed flowing water, I thought he was here as an advocate to support the remediation. However, hearing how he speaks so passionately without knowing any facts shows he's completely unable to balance his passion with laws and common sense. He's unable to strike a balance of environment and its residents. His opinion is baseless. Mr. McAllister was quoted in the Southampton Press saying, "If I can bring heightened awareness, I think the people will bring it to the elected officials to get the desired result." The issue has been here for 18 months in front of elected officials. The trustees, Lee Zeldin's office, my neighbors, the owners of 65 Cliff Drive, and I are in the process of moving toward a remediation that will help the environment, bring back tidal flow, flushing clean water in and out of the canal into Sag Harbor Cove, helping the wetlands and contain erosion. So that goal has been met, and therefore, Ms. Callister brings zero relevance to this matter. He is completely uninformed to facts. He's also quoted saying, "My ultimate goal is to restore and protect environmental quality groundwater and surface waters on Long Island." Again, let's reference what the water looks like. It's putrid. He certainly hasn't met that goal here. Strange that he opposes his own plights. Short-sighted decisions like Martin Shea's caused this completely avoidable disaster, and people speaking just to raise their platform harms hard-working, fair, balanced, caring people working within the laws, following codes, procedures, and guidelines, and respecting jurisdictions. Mr. McAllister has shown he approaches a situation lacking preparation and facts, showing a pure lack of credibility and ethics. And it doesn't help dim the spotlight on Martin Shea's culpability in orchestrating this fiasco for his own ideals, not considering or caring the harm to the area and the residents, working outside of his jurisdiction and disregarding wetland, town, and trustees' laws and codes. The trustees, Lee Zeldin's office, my neighbors, 65 Cliff Drive, we are defending the water, Mr. Callister. Us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want,
That'd be hard to beat.
anybody else wish to speak?
I have more pictures if we're good, right?
Okay,
Thank you for your time and
Yeah.
all of your hard work.
okay. So, if no one else wishes to speak on this matter, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn this to, again, till the next regularly scheduled meeting on September 1st. The applicant has been diligently working with this surveyor, but as you know, these days, it's very difficult to get a surveyor to come out to your property on a short amount of notice there. They had done some previous surveys already, but when we met with the DEC, they required some additional information on volume of sediments to be dredged and elevations of different bulkheads, so they're going to be working on that. So I left several messages for the applicant last week, and I'm just waiting to hear from them about what their timeline is. So we'll keep you informed, and we'll make a motion that we adjourn this to the next meeting.
I would just like
You
to
have a-
say before
okay.
you adjourn,
Go
this
ahead.
is just another classic example that this board has to work on, dealing with the effects of decisions that are made in the upland. For us to take a fair and balanced approach at dealing with those decisions that are made and protecting the environment at the same time. It's very difficult, but we do the best that we can. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else have any comments on the board?
Well, I think it's really important that there should have been a conversation with our board, being that we had jurisdiction originally, permitting the bulkhead and permitting all the work to be done almost 60 years, or over 60 years ago. You know, it was a 3-foot-high bulkhead, which literally had over 100 cubic yards of material that was removed, and at the time of it being removed, there was no grass plantings. There was, maybe there was a plan, but I don't think it was ever followed through. We have another application before us where the applicant is going to remove a bulkhead, is going to regrade it, and is going to revegetate the whole shoreline so that the, basically the sand and the loose material doesn't fall into the bay and get washed away. I was at the site about a month and a half ago, and I did notice that a lot of the material from the wave action, the southwesterly winds, is blowing material on the adjoining property owner's property, covering up wetlands, and basically the whole entire, area is moving. I mean, it's pretty liquid. Once you add water to sand, it becomes like almost like a slurry. One thing that I did really notice is that the elevation of the flat that is really in the mouth of this canal is rising. And living in Hampton Bays on Shinnecock Bay, I know there's a place by Crab Road where a canal has been completely necked off from the Shinnecock Bay, and every 2 or 3 months I get a call from the Hampton Bays people complaining of this noxious smell. Basically, on a full moon high tide, the pond floods, and eventually the water doesn't get back and forth, a good exchange, and 2 or 3 weeks will go by, and that water turns from salt to brackish to fresh,
all the fish and all the life that has entered it from the moon tides all ends up dying, and it becomes this noxious, smelly, canal. I don't want to see that happen, and I do know without good circulation and good flushing, like at Far Pond, there's an area in Shinnecock Bay where it needs to be dredged, and because of that lack of flushing, now we have a closure from the DEC for shellfish because of fecal coliform and poor water quality. Sag Harbor Cove is a wonderful area. It has scallops, oysters, and clams, and I've worked there for almost 50 years, and I would hate to see this area closed to shellfishing because of the negative water quality that is basically festering in back of that sand pile. So,
Mr. President, may I make one additional comment?
Sure.
So I appreciate all those comments, and I guess it prompted me to add the following comment, which is, why did the homeowner do this to begin with? The homeowner made a trade in order to reduce the actual amount of wetlands on their property. So we talk about environmental conservation so that they could put a pool on the property with no surveying done around the pool. So we actually reduced the wetland setbacks, put a pool, which by the way has been sitting there, it's above ground, I'm not sure how that ever got through zoning, and it's filled with 3 feet of sludge because it's just a cement bathtub. So at every single step of the way, this has been anti-environmentalist. But let's appreciate, that bulkhead was taken out as a straight up trade for a pool to reduce environmental setbacks. Thank you.
Right. I just want to add one other thing, is that we've been in direct contact with the Conservation Board, and we're going to act in concert that when the DEC comes and trustees come together with coming up with a viable permit application, that the Conservation Board, he has telegraphed to me that they'll change the covenants.
I don't want to,
It was a very complicated situation.
Yes, because as it is right now, there are covenants that preclude a bulkhead being erected, so they will have to be removed and filed in the county clerk's office in order for us to proceed with this. So that's the next step. So we're going to have, when everything's together, we're going to have a joint meeting with the Conservation Board and the trustees.
And they're working with you guys at this point. They see the value in bringing water flow back to that canal.
That's what's beneficial for the environment, is
Agreed.
everybody working together.
Agreed.
And not just the trustees continually being the beneficiaries of all the upland management decisions that put pressure on water quality in the wetlands. We're dealing with these time and time again. That's been going on for a long time. This is another example. If everybody would have had a conversation ahead of schedule, then we would have been in a lot better place right now, and so would the environment. Okay?
Could have had a functioning low-sill bulkhead with a viable
We're
wetland
trying
behind
to,
it.
exactly. We're trying to collaborate with everybody on solutions that work for all the stakeholders and the environment. As Mr. Tertullian pointed out, in this case, it's not that difficult. Okay? We can be successful in all of the above in cases. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay?
I don't want to recap what Ed and Eric said, but this is a prime example of how quick, when you remove something, or that how fast that sand can go from upland downhill into the water and make another spit or close something off. Goes very quickly. And there's a lot of things what suffers for that on either side of
Time
it.
is of the essence.
Yes.
We know. But, they have to get a DEC permit first. So instead of us issuing a permit and then going to the DEC and then making a revision, we thought it best to have the DEC in an on-site meeting and get to, and hash it out for about a half an hour. They originally started out with coconut fiber logs and everything, but when we showed them what really was going on, and what helped was that landmark post that's there, that you can clearly see how much soil was lost in the past. It was just very beneficial that they neglected to remove that. So that's graphic evidence of what was going on down there. I know. Okay? All right, so I make a motion that we adjourn this to the next meeting.
Second.
Scott seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Discussion?
Let the
everybody go.
room clear, and then, okay, next item on the agenda is discussions, Far Pond Road discussion with Ed Warner's chairing that.
Yes.
Anyone here to speak on Far Pond?
Good afternoon. My name is Timothy Hill. I'm from the law firm Messina Perillo Hill in Sayville, New York. I have been retained by several of the residents at Far Pond Road to attempt to address the situation there. This has been before this board before. Doesn't seem to be gaining traction in the right direction, but in the spirit of Trustee Horowitz's comments in connection with the last matter, if we can get some clarity on what the coordination amongst the various stakeholders, including the various governmental entities, is, perhaps we can move forward in a positive direction. I'll speak about this in three terms, in terms of the perspective. At the most global and highest altitude, one thing that my clients have done is to retain a coastal expert of their own to provide some analysis of what's going on there. That report came back with a identification of the problem primarily relating to the location of the inlet and how it's been dredged historically. I think any review of the historical photographs shows how it's been migrating, and that's causing a severe deficit of the transport of sand to the east. A remedy for that has been identified, which is to relocate that inlet to the west. This expert, it's Mark Burns of Applied Coastal up in Cape Cod, has suggested, and I will be happy to provide you with his report, has suggested making that relocation in a cut to the west, not doing it in stages, but a one-time cut, and then allowing nature to take its course. That serves a dual function of obviously creating a new clean cut into the pond, but equally important, and especially important to my clients, it provides much-needed sand to the east, particularly at the end of Far Pond Road and around the structure at 72 Far Pond, where there is now a rock revetment that both impedes any other transport of sand, as well as completely cuts off access to the beach, as well as just deteriorating the end of the roadway there. My understanding is that from certain information we've gotten in FOIL responses, is that the trustee's own consultant, Mr. Robert Young, has taken a similar view. I only have a short report, but it appears to indicate in broad strokes a consistent view of the issue with the location of the channel and of a remedy to that situation. And my understanding is also that the DEC would be generally supportive of that type of action. Obviously, the county is prime actor here. So what I would like to know from this board today is if something, I'm not trying to dictate exactly the project, but if something in that concept was favored by this board as a long-term and global response to this universally recognized problem, is this board prepared to initiate requests for that type of project to go forward? In all of the versions of what I'm talking about today, trying to identify where the bottleneck is. And to the extent that a formal request needs to come from this board, to the DEC or to the county, whether you just need to humor them or whether it's your committed belief, whatever it is, we would like to see that affirmative step taken, because there's been representations made that something will be done, that it's in somebody else's hands, but we're here before you today. There's been an application for one private interest that's been addressed, so we would like to find out today if this board is prepared to affirmatively advocate for that type of remedy.
Okay, great. Sounds like we're on the same page. So I think Ed, this is Ed's area, and let him speak first on some of the history of this, and then we can get into the nuts and bolts of
Can you
it.
speak up just a little bit?
Okay.
Well, initially, there was a bulkhead there in the 60s and 70s. The trustees permitted the rock revetment as we know it now. Prior to myself being on the board, it was back in the 80s, and after Sandy, the property owner came before the board asking to replace some of the rocks that had fallen over, which they did. Then we had the project done that was on 72 Far Pond, Mr. Malcolmson. We permitted basically the rocks to be put in a crescent shape, covered with sand, and revegetated, a rock apron put in front of the road to protect the roadway from, washing out. And we reconstructed the beach with a contractor, moved a couple hundred yards of sand up to the rock revetment and in front of the road to create a beach. It was scheduled to be dredged last year in the fall, but because of COVID and all the other stuff that the county was put under and doing two very large dredging projects in the town, they didn't get to do the dredging. We tried to have it scheduled for this spring dredging, but the county and the DEC and Army Corps didn't have their quarterly meeting, so they had the ability to, move the timeline as far as the dredging for the spring window. The conversation that I had with the dredging, Suffolk County Dredging, about a week ago, that they anticipate doing the dredging in Far Pond the first September dredge. It's a special season that they have a month before. Take that material and place it along east of of 72 Far Pond Road, going to Middle Pond. And in that, we were going to reconstruct the beach in front and on both sides of the rock revetment. I asked them about moving the channel over to where it was back in the, I would say, 70s, early 80s, when the channel was much further west. And Mr. Hillary at the Suffolk County DPW did tell me that they have to follow a specific template and a site plan when they do the dredging. James, do we have the view of Far Pond from the 50s, 60s, 70s? So we can, yeah.
Well, Ed, you might want to add that when they couldn't perform the dredging with the hydraulic dredge this year, we asked them to modify the permit to be able to come in with a hydraulic excavator with a regular backhoe and excavate that out from what they could, and then take the sand and put it in that area there in front of the end of the road. And the DEC basically gave lip service, oh yeah, that'd be great, and just to change that plan, or crawler excavator, said that it would take at least 5 months to make a decision on that, which would put it out of the dredging window. So that's where the logjam, we're ready tomorrow to start this thing, if we had the equipment and everything. It's completely held up with DPW and DEC.
Yeah, I mean, if we had come in with an excavator on the east side to do the dredging, we would basically be redredging the channel that is there now. The long-term plan is to move the channel over. If you look at the picture that's above your head there, you can actually see where the channel goes to the northwest, not straight in by Far Pond Road. There's almost 150 feet of beach there. And then right after that, the next picture should be,
This is, sorry, this is 1976. What year would you like me to go to?
76, and just scroll it up slowly to where we are currently, year by year.
Oh, I see.
Can you do that?
so you can get a good idea. See how the channel is transitioning, and we're losing the material on the east side, and the west side is basically filling in where the original channel was. What we had asked the county to do is to take that original schematic of that picture there and this picture here, and to redredge it on that angle. By doing that, it cuts down the amount of friction and water velocity that will move in front of Far Pond Road, 72 Far Pond, eroding it. It'll actually, go out to the southeast, and it will create less beach erosion. I asked them to do that, we asked them to do that, and he said we would need an amendment to the permit to, the site plan to do the dredging in a different angle like that. So what he had, basically told me, over a couple dredging cycles, we could move it over slightly each time, as long as they do it with a hydraulic cutter head, and then eventually we'll fill in the beach in front of Far Pond Road, 72 Far Pond, and then in front, going towards Middle Pond. That's the long-term plan, to be able to reestablish that beach that in the 70s, you could drive a truck at high tide in front of 72 Far Pond. There was probably 40 feet of beach there at the time. At high tide now, there's 3 feet of water. So we've subsequently lost a lot of material, and the whole environment has changed drastically. And we would need permission from the DEC to be able to do basically filling in wetlands, it's called. Basically, normally when we do a dredging project, everything is put above the spring mean high tide, and basically when you get a storm, it gets pulled back into the system. We would be asking to do something that the DEC has done only, I know of one other dredging event, and that would be over in Southold, actually fill in below the spring high tide in the intertidal zone. And that's what we would be asking to do. We'd be asking from Far Pond Road to fill in that area in the intertidal zone. It's about 50 or 60 feet in front of 72 Far Pond Road, and then going east, adding it to the deposition site, because the deposition site for the dredging of Far and Middle Pond starts at the rock revetment at 72 Far Pond, and it goes all the way to Middle Pond. So we would be, putting that material, which there's a lot of, because you got to remember, we missed a dredging cycle. So we have a normal dredging would probably be 2,000 cubic yards or maybe 3,000. We're probably looking at somewhere around 5,000 or 6,000 cubic yards at Far Pond, and probably 10 to 15,000 at Middle Pond. So we have a lot more material to be able to place on the beach than we normally would do on a 2 to 3 year dredging, schedule. So this is what we're hoping to happen, is to basically do the dredging in a couple events at Far Pond, move it slightly west. That way we would preserve the property that is the town property, Far Pond Road, Mr. Malcolmson's, so 72 Far Pond, and the beach in front of it.
Want to get into why the erosion has increased?
Well, the erosion has increased because what has happened, when they do the dredging of the Shinnecock Inlet, all the waves come in there. You don't have these basically flats and sandbars that historically are inside of the inlet, and basically the wave fetch comes all the way from the Atlantic Ocean straight into Shinnecock Hills. That happening, even on a calm bay, and you have a big ocean swell, those swells run all the way to Shinnecock Hills. It doesn't sound like a lot, an 8 to 10 or 12-inch swell, but over years and years, it just eats away. And all along Shinnecock Hills, we've had, a lot of erosion. In this area, it's even more so because you have a dredged canal, a dredged channel, and you have another dredged channel to the east of it. So there's a lot of dynamics and a lot of, moving water. So that's caused, exacerbated the erosion. This past weekend, I walked from Far Pond to Middle Pond, and I didn't realize how much erosion had happened east of 72 Far Pond. But the last dredging project that was done there was, considerable probably of the two ponds that were dredged. There was probably 3,000 or 4,000 cubic yards of material. Plus, when we did another dredging in Honeypot Pond, there was almost 1,500 cubic yards of material that were placed on this beach. That material is all gone now. the erosion along this whole stretch is actually moving inland very slowly, and it's all the way to the grass line along, between Middle and Far Pond. So there is a lot of erosion there. And, sea level rise and global warming is a reality in Shinnecock Bay. People may poo-poo it in the rest of the world, but I'm telling you, being a bayman and spending, 50 years on the water, I see the difference in just the last couple years in this area. So we're trying to come up with a long-term plan, but eventually, things are going to have to be elevated and moved back. That's reality.
Well, we have a long-term plan.
Yeah.
It's just we need these agencies
Yes.
to do something about it. You might want to add, that last dredging was not just for navigational purposes. It was for a massive dredging project that took a complete shoal out, that diminished the wave action. They took the sand to replenish the beach, the eroded beach, west of the Shinnecock Inlet.
In front of that.
All that tremendous volume of sand had to come from somewhere, and it removed all the shoals that protect that particular area. So you have tremendous more wave energy hitting that. This whole discussion would be moot if the DEC had just changed 2 words on that and allowed us to put the spoil right there and rebuild that beach in front of Mr. Malcolm's
So
property.
to your first question, yes, we're working on it. We've asked the DEC, we've asked Andrew Walker, we've asked the Army Corps, and we've also asked the county to start moving that inlet back to where it was, in the 60s.
Have those requests been in written form?
I believe so, written and he's on the phone with them like every 2 weeks. They know exactly what we want.
I mean, we did write a letter to them this spring, right, to ask for the emergency dredging and.
I talked to Jim Walker 2 weeks ago, and I think they said he submitted it, yeah.
Yeah, there is
In the process,
Permitting
right?
paperwork.
Because we were working on Mecox. One thing you have to realize, the DEC is pretty glacial. We have a situation at Mecox Inlet that we've had permits that are basically the same exact permits for 50 years, and they have now decided that they want to change it from a 200-foot wide cut, which has worked satisfactorily, to a 10-foot wide cut. So then we modified.
Does that work?
No.
That didn't work. The 75-foot cut emergency order that we got, which took a Herculean effort by Scott and I of calling every congressman and senator and everything, spent 2-3 weeks on pushing this, getting landowners to write letters. Finally, they relented to give us a 75-foot cut, which didn't work either. So we have, plans for 50 years of doing it the right way, and they've decided to do it now. This is for renewal of a 10-year permit. It's taken them 6 years, and they still haven't issued it. It's glacial at best up there.
With respect to this,
No, I understand, but I'm just giving you some perspective of what's going on up there.
so
Well, we could firm it up. I mean, I hear what you're saying loud and clear. I mean, I'm big on the collaboration end of it.
Sure.
I like to get everybody around the table and
Yeah.
But to avoid the possibility of it being kicked down the road or not attended to because of some requirement, whether it's an excuse or a legitimate concern from any of the other entities, that a request be initiated formally from this board, why not just give it to them?
Well, we can reiterate, it's no problem with that.
We'll memorialize something.
Sure. No problem.
This week, we'll formally send out an email to the county what their intentions are as far as the September dredging window. We're very lucky in the town of Southampton. We got a lot of dredging done here, more so than the rest of the county, because,
Yes.
because we have James Duryea, basically our environmental analyst, taking care of all the birds and the plovers, and, it's important because they need red knots, the horseshoe crabs, and, all the other stuff that we need. We have a good environmental, analyst here. And, I can give them a lot of historic fishing information and stuff like that, so we're very lucky. But to your point, yes, I would love to move this channel over to the west, but it's not my call. It's the county's call, and then it's the DEC and the Army Corps' call.
Sean, let me just ask a question. Sean, Cambridge, would it be helpful if the board memorializes this with a resolution that we forward to the other regulatory authorities stating what the board's wishes are in remedying this?
Because we did put it in writing once.
I mean, I'm just thinking, is a resolution a stronger action from the board in articulating what it is that we're trying to do. If it's not, it's not. I'm just trying to his point, I'm trying to get the strongest, articulation of what the board's wishes are to the other regulatory authorities so that we get our best shot at remedying this situation. That's all.
It would show unanimity.
Okay, so can we do this?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
so let's
I
craft
have
a
no problem with that.
resolution from this board that we vote on, and then we will forward this resolution to all of the above. That way, it's very clear, the seriousness, the timing is important, and it articulates, what your concerns are.
Yeah.
as
It's only going to
well.
put it in writing, because we've told them over and over and over again.
Let's
what we want.
have a
But
formal
they always
resolution.
say that, no, we have to modify our permits, and then we're almost done with the one permit, and then we have to go to the Army Corps of Engineers, and the DOS, and Fish and Wildlife, the plovers, and all the rest of the stuff.
That's from-
So they have to modify their permit beforehand, but this year, they've assured you that they're going to do it, and,
The conversation I went with the county, who is reaching out to the DEC, once they get that hurdle cleared, then they have to reach out to the Army Corps, because they have to coordinate everything.
but we can help with that.
But I mean, we do have the ability to contact people at the Army Corps and
We
push it
do,
along.
But I think it will be helpful if there is a formal resolution from the board clearly stating what it is that we
Yes.
seek to be done, and then various board members that have the contact can breathe life into that and shepherd it through, as they say. But I think that the board's actions need to be clearly stated and
That's fine.
articulated to them.
That's fine. I mean, we've been doing our part as far as moving, the highway superintendent has been dumping sand at the end of the road, and it keeps on building out this peninsula out there, so we've gone in there twice and mined that all out and put it in front of the road. So we've done what we could do on the upland part. It's eroding town property. We're concerned about that. It's a lot of, it's going over productive shellfish beds. There's a lot of soft
And you
clams in
have
that
two,
area.
you have two consultants that are deemed to be, or self-portrayed to be experts in this, that seem to be in alignment with this action of moving off to the west. So
Yes, and like I said, I'll be happy to provide you with Mr. Burns' report, which
Okay, that'd be good.
that would be helpful.
you
Yep,
could
we can
compare the
include that as
wisdom of a straight cut versus a progressive one. But if the overall concept is to move the channel,
Mm-hmm.
the benefit of the transport, I think both are in general agreement. But to parallel the request that the formal requests come from this board to initiate that
Mm-hmm.
process, in an interim sense, we also would like to see a request that whatever dredge may perhaps be coming in September, that the spoil site be at the end of the road. It doesn't seem to make sense,
Well, that has to be modified.
but can you make the request that that modification be done?
We can do it formally, but we've told them all along. That's why what we were talking about with the crawler excavator, that they could come in and they could pile it up there, right? Because you don't have the liquids involved. When you're dealing with a hydraulic excavator, a cutter head, you're running a lot of water and a soupy mixture. And the county did not want to dump it right there because it would come right back into where the channel is. So they were going to put it on the east side of Mr. Malcolmson's property, let it dry out, and then we were going to move it back.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be done right, if they come in with the cutter head, it wouldn't be put in right away. Besides, we'd want to wait for the winter storms to abate anyway until we move some sand around in front of the rocks. But the overall goal is to move it over and to increase the width of that beach in front of those rocks there so the public has access 24/7.
And I have no expertise to dictate the coastal policy, but it seems that relocating the spoil site makes a lot of sense. And if it's done in a cumbersome process where it goes on the other side of the revetment and then is brought back, that doesn't seem to be the straightest line, but whatever the decision-making may be, again, we would like to see from this board, instead of phone calls or conversations that you're relating to us third hand, that those formal requests be made for that modification.
Yep. And another thing you have to remember, in front of Far Pond Road, the amount of area that you're looking for a deposition basin is so minimal that if you were to do it with a hydraulic pump, it would literally run right back into the bay. There's not enough area.
Say 20% solids and 80% water.
Back about 12 years ago, I was doing another project, a dredging project in the area, and I wanted to use that as a deposition site, and they still wouldn't do it then, and that was when the beach was probably 150 feet, larger than it is now. So that, and I met with the DEC down at the site with their analysts, and they refused to do it. They wanted to put it on the east side of 72 Far Pond, where the town property is, and they could pump it upland above the spring mean high water. We're looking, like I said, we're looking at putting material below and in the intertidal zone. And that's, that's a heavy lift for the DEC.
All right, so the final, at the smallest level of this view, is the issue at 72 Far Pond itself and the revetment that's there. That is a place where this board has taken specific action in granting the permit for the fortification of that existing rock revetment. I think you called it a crescent. I might.
Yeah, it's an extension, it's basically an extension of the original rock revetment.
Okay, but I think the shape is not a crescent. It's very much a perpendicular structure to the shoreline, which is universally recognized as impeding the transport of sediment along the shoreline. So I'm not sure how, and it's illustrated by the fact that even when we're talking about placing the spoil, now we have this hurdle to jump back and forth over. There's a private interest there. I'm not sure where the balancing happened in this case, in the granting of that permit, which I believe involved actually placing rocks on public lands, trustee lands, for the benefit of that application. But more importantly, in terms of this global resolution to this area, we're confronted with a big, perpendicular structure in the middle of it, and that's something that can't be helping the process. And that is one other thing that came back in the FOIL response, is that the analysis from Robert Young that was provided to you indicated that structure was an impediment and exacerbated the erosion. So.
The original
not
structure,
the original.
or the structure that we permitted this past winter?
The structure, and the request was, given that that there'd be further analysis before the board acted on the application.
Well, I believe we did the project with in mind that if something has to be changed in the future, that we would entertain permitting that also. I mean, the rocks are put there, they're not completely straight, they are like crescent. That's the way the addition was. They're covered with sand, they're vegetated. There's a covenant on that property that those rocks need to be covered by sand on a yearly basis, so that will maintain some sand in the environment. And like I had discussed with some of the residents around there, it's probably going to be a perpetual maintenance of that beach on the west side of that property. Between the inlet, the wave action, and the rock revetment that was, permitted decades ago, there's a lot of wave energy there. So, and as we move forward, we do projects, we see how they work out in the short term, and if they work out good in the short term, then we kind of leave them alone. If they don't work out, then we have to go back to the drawing board and see what else we can do in order to, maintain public access. And I was there with our attorney, Sean Cambridge. We walked 72 Far Pond, the property. We realized that on the east side of the property, there's a 10-foot sheer rock drop that we would not have people walk up and down. I mean, it's that the public is allowed a 5-foot passing way around these structures. We need to figure out how to put material on the east side of that property, build it up to where it was, 5 years ago, so that people can walk and easily access the beach on the west, on the east side, even at high tide. I mean, it's a project, and I know it's a heavy lift.
Well, we had Rob Young here, beginning of last year. We did a tour of different hot spots in the town, and basically what we were trying to achieve was some sort of wave break there to lessen the intensity of the waves hitting the shoreline and the end of the road. So it was felt that instead of issuing something with large boulders, if we put something small there, since it's an evolving situation, we don't know how these bars are going to change out by the Shinnecock Inlet, what the wave energy is going to be in the future, where the county's going to come. The best idea was to try to put some sort of like wave break in there, and with small enough rocks that they could be moved by our equipment if we had to, and move them around and adjust them as we go, since it's an evolving situation. Because the channel's going to be in a different spot, maybe 2-3 years, so are they going to be effective there? Would it be better at moving them over this way to protect town land, the CPF land? That's why that's the size that they were. So instead of putting large stuff that would necessitate large machines and everything on the beach to move things around.
Okay, so to sum up my piece, in terms of the global resolution, I appreciate that it appears that this board is going to issue a resolution formalizing its request for how that process would take shape, that a formal communication will be made with respect to the county and the dredge project and spoil placement in connection with that project. And I think in terms of analyzing the very short-term feedback on how the permitting at 72 is going, I think you may hear that it's not going so well. But I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming. Anyone else have to say? Go ahead. Oh, wait, we have, I recognized her first. Sorry.
Hello, I'm Laura Nigro. I grew up in the area. I've lived on Far Pond and that area since I was 8 years old and even before. I don't know if anyone knows the history of the area, where the peninsula, which we cannot get access to now, once was owned privately. Then that owner traded it for what I call the island, which now has 3 houses on it. And then NAM bought that island and sold off the pieces, and now there are 3 houses, and 1 lot was split up between the 2 homeowners. Now, I tried to get the town to buy that land. They wouldn't listen to me. So NAM went and sold it, and those houses were built. Prior to that, there were trees on that island back in the 50s, 60s. I have photographs of that island full of trees and birds, and it was a sanctuary. When Roscoe got a hold of it, he dredged, filled it in, and ever since then, that dredge, that fill, has been going into Middle Pond. And that pond, when we first got there, we had a dock with a floating dock at the end of it, and that dock at low tide had plenty of water underneath it. By the time now, it just lays on mud flats. There's so many mud flats throughout Middle Pond now that used to be just beautiful. At low tide, you didn't have all the sandbars exposed. Now they say global warming, but we don't have any water in there now, hardly, at low tide. It's disgusting. So I don't know how you're going to fix Middle Pond. I don't know if you can dredge it or somehow prevent the fill from coming in through the cut and filling up the island, filling up the pond. But I think the damage has been done there, with Middle Pond. I don't know how anyone's going to fix that. It's never going to be what it was when I was a child. It's just gone. So I just hope that you can fix the issue at the end of Far Pond. I walk every day, and I'm used to cutting around the rocks, going down there. And then there's a little path kind of at the next property between 2 trees that I can walk down when no one's there and get to the beach. But the people live there, and I don't feel good walking through their property without permission. But there has to be a path for us until this whole project is done. There has to be a way for us to get to that peninsula. You have to find a way for us to get there. We used to walk across the bridge and go into the island. Now they're saying private property, you're not allowed on the bridge. But the trustees own that bridge, and we have every right to go across that bridge. And those homeowners on that island need to be told that we have every access to that property, to that bridge. And we can cross it at high tide. My parents had a bulkhead. At high tide, we had to permit people to walk across the bulkhead because that was the only access. We need the right to get to that peninsula. And you guys have to figure it out.
Well, hopefully, we'll get that sand when it's
But
dredged.
that's going to be too long. That's going to be years.
It's supposed to be done this year,
Oh, come on.
September. Well, that's what they told us. I mean, we
No.
don't have the resources.
Really?
We
Really?
don't have a dredge.
Well, you have to find a way to get there before then.
We have to get the town board to fund us.
No, not about the dredging. You need to get a property owner's permission for us to get access to that, our property. Because we, as a right, have access to that.
We'll have to allow our attorneys to talk about that.
There's
I can't
possibility, Sean?
answer that.
What was that?
We can
Did
talk
I
to
ask?
the executive about potential.
We have a right to get to that point.
Yep.
Okay.
I did bring our attorney, Sean Cambridge, to the site, and we walked it, so he is familiar with.
There's that property right next door, 70, there's a little path you can get
I
to
know.
between the trees.
Yep.
We can walk across the bridge and go across their property
You
as a
can-
right.
You can walk across the bridge, and you can go right around the return and walk inside of Middle Pond. That's perfectly.
Jane.
But we can walk, at
They
high
used to
tide, we
the-
can walk along the edge of the property if we can't if we can't.
You're allowed to pass and repass, yeah.
Yes.
The island?
And
They
at
can
high
move it
tide, are we
down?
permitted to go across 70s, that back route on 70?
That's
Okay, look,
private,
bring it up.
that's a discussion I would need to have.
That way you can show people.
Bringing up the map here. The aerial. Okay.
Because 70 has a little path right adjacent to 72 that we can cut through to get there, and when no one's there in the winter, I just go there.
Jim, can you expand it out a little bit?
Yeah, right by Mr. Malcolmson's property there.
No, the other way.
Do zoom in on it some more.
Zoom in a little bit more. I'm just east of 72 Pond, keep one more.
Okay.
Yeah.
See the little,
One.
the little tree line? There's a little path you can get to that cuts you right in between there. That comes out at 70 right through
Right where the
there.
cursor is right now?
Yeah,
Yes.
basically where the property line is.
Okay.
That would be a conversation with the property. I'm not familiar with the owner of that property, so I
No,
haven't.
neither am I. Yeah.
It's a rental, it's a tenant probably,
Oh. Uh-huh.
yeah. I mean, there has to be a way for us to get down there. Either you tell the people with the bridge to let us cross and not to come yelling at us when we're on their bridge saying private property, get off, or you.
Well, let's pull that permit for the bridge.
Well,
I'm
what's
not
the
aware of
bridge-
any,
yeah, what's the, you said it was ours, now you're saying it's private property?
Yeah, they won't let anyone on it. They keep saying it's private property, and they have posted private property. Right, there's posted private
Hold
property.
it. Ma'am, you have to come up here and talk.
You can come
Right,
with me.
right.
You can't go back and forth,
yeah,
because it messes up Charlie.
Sure.
yeah.
So that's an
We're
excellent
gonna have to
question.
pull that permit and see if there's any special conditions on the granting of that permit.
That's an excellent question.
It says, I pulled up the town, the trustee meeting said that we had every right to cross it because it was over a body of water and it was trustee's property.
It has broken the plane of the water, just
All right.
like,
So then,
a
so
boat.
then
we'll
they,
put them
there's
on
a
notice then,
sign
that's
there.
Are we gonna get back to talking about Far Pond?
You gotta go over there.
Because that's what was at issue.
Yes.
Right, but it's about
Right,
the
it's all
whole
related.
thing. It's about the whole waterways.
It's,
Kind of went sideways.
You gotta
I
talk from
know,
over
it's all
there.
related.
It's about our access to that area, okay? That's
Right.
what it's about,
Okay.
and that's what I'm discussing.
So we'll look into that.
Back and forth.
Right, we just told them that.
You gotta come up here.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, Charlie, I told you.
Okay, so look, this is how we work things. If you step down and you sit down and someone else comes up, if you have
Right.
something else to bring up, you can come back up again.
Okay, cool.
It's not
But I'm
like, you know,
just
3
saying that
minutes and that's, you
we
have to
need
speak.
to deal with our access immediately, not until it gets
Have
the
someone in
the
office
sand in
pull that
front,
permit.
Okay,
okay?
Neither of them know how to do it.
Yeah. Can you do it on the computer there, on the laptop?
I can try.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. For the
I'm
the dredge-
Don Schwartz, 59 Far Pond, Southampton.
okay.
One or two things, I have just comments, just really to set the record straight on a couple of things, and I have a couple of questions. I'll try and be brief. Rob Young has been mentioned on and off for months, and we originally hired him back in November of 2019. You have his letter, and it explicitly indicates the existing revetment on the property has very clearly impacted local coastal processes, causing erosion to the west of the property, loss of the beach and intertidal zone in front. These previous losses are limiting public access to that intertidal area and adjacent beaches. Then it goes on and on and on, and it really pertains to the rock revetment, which unfortunately was there way before everybody else was here. And it's something that we have to deal with, but it really wasn't something that you did. Subsequent to that, you hired Rob Young, and one of your meetings, you indicated that he orally indicated that enhancing and hardening that rock revetment was okay. Well, I have a copy of his February 5th, 2020 memorandum to you, the board. He did access 3 properties, so I'll just limit myself to one. The following report and analysis is based primarily on a visit on January 16, 2020, as well as previous experience working with the Southampton trustees in the areas visited. This is a written summary of ideas discussed while on site. We were told it was oral, happens to be in writing. The visit to Far Pond was initiated by a request for a permit to expand an existing bulkhead, revetment, and to evaluate continuing erosion at the end of Far Pond Road. Before the site visit, I conducted an analysis of shoreline change at the site. The existing revetment on the property has very clearly impacted local coastal processes, causing erosion to the west of the property and loss of the beach and intertidal zone in front. These previous losses are limiting public access to that intertidal area and adjacent beaches. It is also clear to me that dredging activities in the navigation channel between Far Pond and Shinnecock Bay have decreased the available sand west of Far Pond Road and east of the channel. Placing that sand east of 72 has resulted in a wide, robust beach. Unfortunately, the hard structure at 72 Far Pond Road have and will continue to prevent any sand from making its way back to the west. The beaches and intertidal zone east of the channel and west of 72 are suffering. The erosion is threatening neighboring properties. That's us. We have 13 neighbors who have joined the group, and we're trying to resolve the issue with your help, and I know you really are trying to help resolve something that happened before. But the hardening of that rock revetment at 72 has just increased the amount of erosion. The hardened structure to the west of 72 is on our beach. I call it our beach, as we just heard. It's limiting our access to the beach. When you go down to the beach, you can't really go to the left because 72 Far Pond's rocks are on that public beach. I thought that was public land, but apparently now it's part of 72's backyard, and it's covered with grass and sand. And it's just part of the hardened structure. So we took a hardened structure that shouldn't be there, and we made it harder. Forgive the poor language, but that's what it looks like to me. Yes, we pushed the sand up, we put more rocks. They're good-sized rocks. To me, it's not temporary, but I'm not an expert. And we hardened the hard structure against Rob Young's recommendation. We have another coastal expert who made the same recommendation. I think you have a copy of that. If not, I'm sure my colleague Jill Schwartz will come up and go over that. So we have all the experts who say the rock revetment is causing the erosion. What can we do about it? And the last several months, we've heard that there's a plan in place. And that plan is going to take years to do. And I really appreciate everybody's work in trying to make it happen. But we're suffering now, and it just seems like it's just on and on and on and on. We've been discussing the dredging for 6 months. All of a sudden, we have an attorney who's asking for a written recommendation, and everybody says, oh, that's a really great idea. You mean we don't have a written recommendation up until now? It's just been a telephone call. Hey, can you guys do some dredging? Nothing is in writing.
I think we have.
I'm requesting a resolution.
This was a wonderful idea, but shouldn't have that have been done 6 months ago, maybe to put it in writing, so there's somebody can look back and see what was asked?
There was email correspondence, and we have regular meetings and telephone conversations with the Suffolk County Dredging. We have a very good relationship with them. And these ponds are getting dredged as frequently as they can, but the primary goal of the Suffolk County Department of Waterways is to dredge creeks that have commercial activity on them.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So you can only push things as far as you can push, okay?
Right.
Because they don't really have to do this.
I appreciate
There's plenty of
that.
other creeks on Long Island that are not getting serviced, and we're fortunate that we have a good relationship with them. And they bend over backwards to try to accommodate us, I would say, wouldn't you?
But
Ed?
you got people complaining at Penniman's, at Weesuck, at Smith's,
Carter Creek,
at Carter, big
I know,
problem.
Dave's
everybody-
Creek,
I know, they're-
Fish Creek,
Exactly.
East
They're all
River.
constantly-
It's all the same.
Fresh
constantly
Pond.
Dry.
I know.
you know?
It's,
Okay.
You know, everyone, and everyone's asking the county to do this, and their mission is to prioritize and dredge creeks that have many docks of commercial activity,
Right.
right? And they bend over backwards to do these creeks
Just one of the many.
that really
I
don't
understand.
fit that criteria.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, basically, we're one of the only municipalities that they will talk to on a riddle basis.
Right.
Okay,
that's
because
good.
we've always been fair and square with them.
Well, that's good.
And they're under pressure a lot. They've requested from the DEC for many years to have the ability to put spoil on that side in front of the road.
Right.
And the DEC has not allowed them to do it. So the remediation, the highway superintendent's been dumping hundreds and hundreds of yards down there, and that hasn't worked.
No.
That clearly hasn't worked. That's only choked off it more.
As long as
So,
that
I
rock
mean, you have
revetment
to
is
try
there.
to do something.
Yeah, as long
You
as
know?
that rock revetment is there and it's being hardened.
Yeah, but it was happening before that. It was happening,
I know, but we're making it
we
worse.
put that sand
We're
on
making it
there
worse.
twice.
We're making it worse because we're enlarging the rock revetment. We're hardening it, we're making it larger.
But as I said, it is a constantly evolving situation, and once that sand gets replaced down there, then that revetment might be moved around in a better location, maybe to bolster the end of the road.
Maybe.
Or maybe to put it at the edge of the CPF property, okay? I don't see all these experts coming up with any other ideas of what to do,
I know.
okay? We're doing something, we're at least trying
I
to
know
do
that.
something.
I know that.
Okay?
I do
Nobody else is, everybody who's been hired, what's your solution?
I know. They don't have an answer.
Give us something, no answer.
I know.
Just criticism,
The
okay?
rocks,
No,
No good deed goes unpunished.
right on
We're
that.
trying.
Can you explain?
project, can I, real quick, the project that was done last winter, where the rocks are placed now, the new rocks, was all pine trees and bramble bushes, and, you know, it all eroded out. I mean, I watched, you know, like 10 feet of that property on one storm fall in. So we allowed them to put right on the very edge of his property line, these rocks. They were covered with sand and they were vegetated. And then we reconstructed a whole sandy beach that was almost 75 feet wide. I mean, we did it on our dime, had a contractor remove all of that sand that the highway placed in front of that road that washed into the pond, was covering up the wetlands and, you know, killing all the, we moved it all back there to reconstruct the beach for everybody in your community to have during the summer. We didn't have enough material to go around in front of that rock revetment or south of it, and another thing, that's intertidal zone. I mean, we cannot fill that in legally with the DEC. I mean, that's one of the big thing with them, is filling intertidal zone. That's why they don't want this material to be dredged and pumped up in a slurry and wash into the intertidal zone. They want to pump it up above the mean spring high water, let it dry, and let storms pull it back into the system. That's
Those, the new rocks that's an extension of the revetment, is that on public land? Is that on?
Yes.
Our public beach?
Trustee Road.
So 72 Middle Pond's land now extends onto the public.
No, he's not claiming any more land. That's on our land.
It's on the Shinnecock Beach Road.
But it's on the beach itself. When you
He
say on the
placed
road,
rocks
the
on, we allowed him to place rocks on our road right now.
So you allowed him to put rocks on your road? On-
Yeah,
it's
to
not-
do
that-
something,
but
to
that's the
stop-
public beach.
Right, right.
But that was not a beach, that was pine trees.
It was
I mean,
public
those-
land.
Right, okay.
Whether you want to call it public land or public beach, 72 Middle Pond now
Yes.
includes part of that area.
But it's no different than multiple properties from Peconic Road to Atterbury Road. There are multiple properties that their bulkheads, their stairs, some beach houses are on our properties.
Okay.
So it's something that there are surveys showing that the Shinnecock Beach Road might be 10 or 20 or 30, 40 feet up, 50 or 60 feet up on these properties. I can show you
Okay.
multiple
Okay.
permits that we permitted, and every one of these permits, since I've been on this board, we have covenants that those beaches erode out to the point where the public no longer have access, that they have to do sand maintenance in front of their properties in order to assure the people to pass and repass at low tide.
All right. Can you tell me what the September dredge will look like?
I don't know right now.
Okay.
I know the county has been down at Far Pond 3 times doing surveys. I'm hoping that they will dredge that peninsula that's on the west side. You can see it right up there, and you can see where the old channel was inside there. Take the majority of that sand out of there. It's a considerable amount. The problem is, once you cut that out, it's got like a 5-foot elevation, so it's all going to slough down. So I can't tell you exactly how much of a dredging they're going to do and how but I'm hoping that, best case scenario is they probably take 5,000 or 6,000 cubic yards of material out and put that on the beach.
They'll put that on the east side?
On the east.
Has to be on the east side.
That's.
And then when it dries out, it'll be brought over?
We'll move
We'll
it.
move it over.
Okay, understood
And
on
we
that.
and we
Okay.
did ask the county to amend this permit, so in the future, that if this happens and they don't have the availability for their hydraulic dredge, that if they have an excavator, that they can come in from the west side and dredge it and put it on the west side of Far Pond. That's been asked.
Which I had direct conversations with the DEC regarding that.
Great.
Just changing the language to allow in that permit, simple permit modification, to just put in there, or crawler excavator, which would allow the county to go in there and do it.
Okay.
And, they give you lip service, oh, that sounds like a great idea, but, it'll take 5 months. 5 months to change 3 words, okay? No matter how many times I've talked to them, one person will say one thing, and then it has to go higher up, and then it just falls into this abyss.
Okay.
And then if we go down there and do it on our own and go rogue,
Yeah.
then all the eyes are on us, like, oh, they did something without a DEC permit, let's fine them, let's sue them on this, and let's sue them on that. So we're constricted.
Okay. I only have two other items.
I think it's
Okay,
an
quick.
easy lift for the county and the DEC and the Army Corps to move that dredging or adding that dredging spoil site to the west side, because there's never been any birds there nesting.
Right.
That's never been a problem.
Right.
So that would be a much easier site. The
Yeah.
problem that we ran into in Middle Pond, doing any dredging in the
Yeah.
spring dredging window, is it used to be historically a tern colony there.
Well, you have the piping plovers there.
Well, the terns were there also.
The terns.
That was, and they haven't nested there for 15 years,
Yeah.
but historically, they had nested there.
But I've
Tell
only
you what, I think would be
two
a
items,
good
I'll be
idea
quick.
for you, real quick, is to get everybody's email, everybody's email that you're associated with, and when we send out an application to the DEC or any correspondence with them, then we will give you the people to contact in the DEC, and then you, the public, can start hammering them
Be
along
great.
with us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? And, Bridget Fleming's office and this, Brett Thiel's office and everything like that, because
We'll do that.
we're blue in the face all the time,
Okay.
okay?
Again, I only have two other items, and I'll be quick. I was going to bring up the access, so I'm glad somebody else did, and I know that I've spoken to Ed about it several times. We've known for some time that there wasn't any access. Ed was supposed to meet us down there, and he couldn't make it. And then the next day, he sent me an email saying, "Update, there's no access." Well, we're very aware there's no access. We've been told that there was access, and we all want access. I can't verbalize it as strongly as Mrs. Nigro did, but we deserve access. We're homeowners there. There should be some sort of right-of-way. There should be some legal access. We have an attorney here. Figure it out. I don't know the answer. Like, it's easy to say, fix it or figure it out, but we need access. After dinner, my wife and I like to take a walk down on our beach. Well, we can't anymore. So we go to town, or we go to Cooper's Beach and take a walk after dinner. We need access to our land, and we should be able to have it. Enough said. Plantings.
Agreed.
I know it's difficult to determine whose trucks and who was responsible for the plantings at the end of our road between our house and 72 Middle Pond, but we all agree there were plantings there. We'd all chip in, maybe the trustees have an extra $500. I understand it's difficult to make anybody do it, but Ed, you will meet with the owner of 72, you were going to meet with InterScience, and everybody was going to replant. Well, so far, it's middle of August and nobody's replanted. So if somebody could take a look at that, because people park their cars down there, their trucks down there, if we could get the plantings back, would be great.
Yeah.
I'm just asking if we could do our best.
I did meet with the property owner, I did meet with his landscaper, who I know, and we had a discussion. I want to have a further discussion with our board in executive session and our
Okay.
attorney, because we walked the area, we got a feel, lay of the land, so I want to have a discussion.
Fair enough, okay.
Between the whole board.
Okay. And then the last thing was, I was fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to see the August 2nd work session on my little computer. We didn't know anything about this work session, and I was a little surprised that the owner of 72 Middle Pond, 72 Far Pond, excuse me, the owner of 72 Far Pond was there at the work session and had an opportunity to speak, unopposed, verbally giving you his side of whatever his side is. I didn't know that was allowed. I didn't know that people could come into the work session. I didn't know anybody even knew about the work session. So I was a little surprised.
Well, the work sessions are all public. Normally, we do not have public discussion at them, but the owner of the property was here, and we asked him to come and, speak before us, and then, because myself and our attorney had walked the property, and we were trying to get some kind of feedback as far as what we could do as far as public access there, and I thought it would be good for Mr. Malcolmson to speak before us. Normally, we have it at this part of the meeting,
Right.
not the work session that's in the
Right.
morning. So, I mean,
So he was invited.
well,
Well, because it was his permit that we were talking about.
I'm sorry.
Because it was his permit that we were talking about.
we.
The permit for
His
the
permit
revetments.
at the work session?
We were talking about access to Shinnecock Beach Road, which was going to be this whole conversation, but on a larger scale, all the way from, Jackson's Marina all the way to Fort Pond.
So only that single house was invited to discuss?
Well, if we talk about this piece of property that you're talking about, we would only invite them because it concerns them, people walking on their property. Okay, so you have to get the,
Okay.
feedback from them.
And that was the only
If we-
discussion, because from what I heard on, when I viewed the work session, that was not the discussion when he addressed the trustees.
No, that was a little off
That,
the top.
in fact, had nothing to do
Went off top.
with the access. It had
Went off top.
all to do with this,
Yes, it
the
did.
whole thing.
Yes.
And then, so I didn't know that was, it would have been nice, knowing, not that this is contentious or anything, but there are 15 neighbors on the street who are being affected by 72 Far Pond's problem, we'll call it. It would have been nice if we were notified, yes, this is going to be discussed, and 72 Far Pond is being invited, and maybe some of you neighbors would like to come also and speak, instead of just a homeowner there. This would have been maybe fair.
Yeah, but
That's
that's
all.
why I had asked for a lot of people to give us your email addresses, so when we put stuff on specific to your community, you can attend. Myself and our attorney, Sean Cambridge, walked the property. We met with Faith, Mr. Malcolmson's wife, and she had expressed some concerns, and I had said to her in passing, "Oh, why don't you come to the meeting if you have these concerns?" We had initially scheduled you for last general meeting like this, but, you couldn't make it, so then we rescheduled for this. But Mr. Malcolmson and his wife Faith came to that work session. So, out of courtesy, it's a public meeting, we gave them the ability to speak.
Okay. It might have been nice as a courtesy to extend that to the other homeowners
You have
who
something you
have a
want to address?
vested interest.
Do you have something you want to address now that you have the mic?
I've said my piece. That's it. But I'm just saying it would have been nice to have a chance to rebut or to be in on that meeting. We didn't know it existed. The email I got on the 4th from Ed said, why don't you take a look at the work session and see what we discussed?
That's why when it happened.
Which was very nice of him, and I appreciate that, but it would have been nice if I had known what was going on the 2nd. I would have been here.
Well,
I thank you.
Well, hopefully our next meeting will be down on site watching the dredge do its work.
All right.
That's why I mean, it's best, the thing is also, when you have public portion, like on this meeting we have public, you don't know what's coming up on public portion. You have no idea as a board member even what the public has on their mind, so.
You must have known because you invited him.
No, I'm just saying in general, we still don't know. But personally,
But you did know.
No, personally, I don't like
In
to
general,
entertain
he said.
discussions at work sessions. I want to do nuts and bolts as a board member
Right.
at work sessions. I'm not interested in discussions.
That's what a work
At work
session is.
sessions. Public portion on a general session, hey, it's public time, come on in and say what you got to say and let's figure something out. And that's why there's procedures, and I think procedures are there for a reason, for this reason. So,
Well,
that's
why
what I'm
wasn't
saying.
that procedure followed on that work session?
Listen, life's unscripted here, and you're right.
I know.
You're right, and that's why work sessions are nuts and bolts.
Right.
And that's why public portion is on an agenda for public portion. And, I get everybody's trying to be the closest sport to the people and hear everybody out when they come. But as some say, no good deed goes unpunished.
I know.
Right? So we're trying to do the work of the people and trying to resolve the issues. And then also, look, even telling people you need to speak from the mic, not from the seats. You have to keep reinforcing that. It's not as easy as it looks. But you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you mailed it to my town hall?
This permit.
Charles Schwartz, 66 Far Pond Road. I'll be pretty quick. In terms of the access to the beach, there's a really easy solution. Ed, you just brought it up. Why isn't there a stairway being built over those rocks to go down to the beach? The rest of there's plenty of access to go up his driveway. We're allowed 5 feet supposedly. This is what you had said previously. So why aren't we allowed to circle across and now go down? He built the whole, all this work was done for this guy. The least he could do is put this stairway there so the rest of the community can have access to it. Why is that a hard thing to do?
Good idea.
Okay. Anyone else?
I mean, I can, Jill wants to speak.
Jill Schwartz, 66 Far Pond. I know it's a lot of Schwartzes, we're not related to Don, but we are, okay. So initially, I was going to talk a little bit about what has occurred, sort of, and take it back from November 2019. But Ed has raised some good points, and you guys have mentioned some things, and I do want to touch on that. But first, so I will try to keep it short on the history. As you all know, in November 2019, I also want to say that there were 10 other neighbors who were going to be here, but because of last-minute work problems and medical reasons, I'm also speaking on their behalf, and different things that they wanted me to mention. Okay, so in November 2019, a large amount of us, 30 community members, town officials, environmental organizations, expressed not only our concerns about the application for 72 Far Pond, but our concerns about the whole area. And we begged and pleaded for a holistic solution. We said, let's bring everyone together, all the entities, the trustees, the DEC, the DPW, homeowner, the community, the coastal erosion experts, Robert Young in that case, and let's try and come up with a solution that looks at everything, because, you know, this was in a beautiful area. At that point then, it seemed we had an agreement from the trustees, and everything was tabled to the new, when Eric came in January. I spoke numerous times with Eric. We had really good conversations. Eric expressed he felt the channel should go west. He felt sand should be put at the end, and there was no need for the additional rock revetment. And there were times that the application was on the agenda, and Eric would call and say it's on, but it's being adjourned. And I really appreciate that. And all of a sudden, and we spoke in November, we spoke in December, we even spoke in January about the imminent dredge until the county could no longer come in. Never in all that time did anyone mention that there was a November 2020 meeting where a permit application was put forth again, and it was pushed through. So you have to see the point of view of all of us. We feel like it was snuck in. Ann said she thanked the community profusely for working with the homeowner and coming up with a solution. The community had nothing to do with this, because the community would have come back and said the same thing it had before. So it's really upsetting. I just don't know how to tell you how upsetting it's been. So the permit was put in, and I know the homeowner at that work session 2 weeks ago said that he was there, and as far as he knew, no one else was there, and he said it was February, it was March, and then he said it was the end of February. February 6th, it was staked. February 9th, the work began. I was there. I lived there full time. There were many trucks. There was many equipment. They were parked where the shrubs were pulled up. Small detail. And again, Rob Young recommended against it. I've been here since 1992. Ed said at the work session that in the 1970s and in the 1980s, you could walk right in front of the revetment, you had a beautiful beach. I came in 1992, we had a beautiful beach. We always could walk in front of the rock revetment. I showed you pictures from 1995. I brought them consistently. You could see the post from the road end was 50 feet out when I was there, maybe more before I was there. Over the years, the rock revetment went in 1990. Over the years since then, we slowly saw erosion. And at some point, way into the 2010 beyond, was really where it started to become a real problem. And the homeowner you're talking about, Marinelli, when their rocks were falling down, it was the same time we were working on the Honeypot Pond dredge, and we came to you with them, and we asked if that Honeypot Pond dredge could go at the end of the road and in front of the rock revetment. And I know they work. So it wasn't from Sandy. It was already starting to fall down because they were having too much erosion happen. And you could even see it go up the rock onto their raised backyard, right? So that is sort of the history of the area. In addition, I can tell you that vehicles did drive on there in the 1990s and even into the 2000s. It wasn't just in the 70s, which you had said before. And I can verify that because my sunfish was stolen, and someone drove on and stole it from me in about 2004. Okay. So now what do we have? We have a large rock revetment, and then we continue to have gone around now on public land, taxpayer dollar land. We have a beautiful beach that's kind of been destroyed, and now we have access to the beach east that we don't have at all. It's the reason I moved here. Doesn't exist. It's the reason my children had such a great upbringing. Doesn't exist. So what do we do? So now I'm confused again, and now we come to where going forward. I had a conversation with Ed last week, and he told me that DPW had received a permit modification to come here in September to dredge, and he said there'd be 10 to 12,000 cubic yards. He said more than they normally dredge, and it was going at the end of the road in front of the revetment. Great. It's not the full solution, but fabulous. Okay, well, that, maybe I misunderstood, but that we know is not the case. I have a copy of the permit from the DEC, and the modification is the change in time. There's 5,000 cubic yards maximum, and it is going to the old deposition site, which is in front of the homeowner Don Sedio, right in that area. Every time, I'm really glad to hear you say you're going to move it over, but every time the past couple of dredges, Ed, that you and I have worked on, I've been told that. And I really hope and pray that this time it really will be moved, because it's never been moved. And all that happens is it continues to erode, and it continues to erode, and continues to erode. And all we have, except that, yes, the beach, some of that sand was moved temporarily. We know it lasts a few months. But when it disappears, as you know, all we have now is bay bottom, so mud and cobble. We don't have any sand anymore. We don't have access to the beach at all. So I also have developed a very nice rapport with Andrew Walker at the DEC. And Andrew supports the move of the channel. He also, if I remember correctly, he has a master's in coastal erosion or somewhere in there. So he understands this pretty well. He also supports depositing the spoils at the ends of the road. But he checked, and that wasn't changed in the permit. He also says that they can't make any change without a request from you to the DPW. And he believes that any requests have to be in writing. So if you would make that request to DPW, then perhaps DPW would put that request into DEC. And perhaps, with Andrew Walker's assistance, it can be moved forward. He's been waiting for months for a request, according to Andrew, for a crawler excavator change. And he knows, you had said, that it would take 4 to 6 months. But even if that was true, though he says he could, he wants to expedite things, but even if that's true, we're going back to, March, April, when you started? So now we're at 4 to 6 months. Scott, who said we should really, he's big on collaboration. I'm really glad to hear you say that. I am too. We begged for that in November 2019, because I believe if we bring you guys who know this area so well, and we bring the coastal erosion experts and DEC and DPW together, that we have very bright minds of everyone here. And we could come up with potentially, we're not going to save the environment completely. I understand that. I understand that we have other issues going on that are beyond man's control. But we will bring it back to some sort of sanity. We will bring the shoreline back to being straight, no longer this completely different shoreline that is now filling in Far Pond. We have so much sand. Bring it back. Just move it, as is being proposed. Close off that channel, move the channel. Trying to think what else you said. The covenant that you talked about, the sand behind the covenant, if I understood correctly, but tell me if I'm wrong, is for the sand behind the new revetment. So it's the sand where the beach grass is now planted, that he planted on it, and it's the sand that covers the rocks, but it's not the sand in front of the rocks, the sand that you guys moved, that's temporary. Also, I know you said it was on trees where the rock revetment was put. It wasn't. I mean, I can show you picture after picture. It was on what was once beach. There were no trees there. Yes, he has a berm, and theirs had trees. But where you come to the flat area, most of the area, it wasn't. It was part of the beach. And we looking at that post, that's the road, and those rock revetment go across a significant amount. Now, I understand what Eric was saying, and if it does serve the purpose and protect the road end, fantastic. Then I think it's great. We don't know that yet, but we do know that rocks cause erosion in front of them. And how often can you keep moving sand to protect that? Ed, you know, I've known you a lot of years. I may be a pain in the ass to you, but I enjoy working with you. On Honey Pot Pond, on this. You have many of our numbers and emails already. You get calls from too many of us, I'm sure. Feel free to contact us anytime if this is coming up and there's an issue that you want that's being on the agenda. We'll be here. To the homeowner at 72 Far Pond, I listened to the work session too. And nobody, you've known me, Ed, for 15 years. I am not confrontational, and I would never walk on anybody's property. And nobody in my community that I know, and I know a lot of them, would ever trespass on someone's property. And nobody would ever say an accusatory word or do them harm. So I feel like we were all defamed, and I find that very upsetting because it's not the character of any of us. So I urge you again, work with Andrew Walker. He's a wonderful person, and maybe you're right, and ultimately the DEC won't permit dredge at the end. But you're going to come in September, going to put all those spoils, whether it is 5,000, whether it becomes 10,000, way east. It will do us no good. If I could get something in writing from you that says we are moving it to, we will then move it to in front of the rock revetment to restore your access, and in front of the end of the road to restore the beach and to take your homes out of potential danger, I would love that.
We don't have to put it in writing, we're telling you that's what's going to happen, because that's what has to happen. You cannot put, when you are doing a dredging project like that, you cannot discharge it right there. You can't, because it's only 20% solids, the rest is water. It comes out as slush.
I understand.
So it goes right back into where they are. So it has to be put around, dried out, and then moved back.
I understand.
Okay.
I watched every dredge, and I understand.
And I've talked to Andrew Walker on several occasions, and Andrew Walker is a low-level DEC person. It has to go through several chains of command up the line. So, I mean, he has not indicated to me at any time that he's talked to his upper level to get things done. See, instead of all these people writing all these emails, trying to cover themselves all the time, I like to get on the phone and talk to somebody straight ahead and say, hey, let's get this solved. And that hasn't happened. 5 months to change 2 words, that means if he had the ability to do that and to issue a permit right away, he could have told me right then and there. He says, oh, yeah, that doesn't seem to be too much of a problem, I'll change it. But he's just telling you that, and the upper echelon is not going to do it.
But
Okay, I'm not getting any
doesn't that go
indication.
but your request for a crawler excavator, wouldn't it go to DPW for them to then make the request to DEC, right? Because aren't they the people getting the permit? That's where I get.
They were reluctant to make any changes to the permit because they were applying for, a new 10-year permit,
Yes.
right? And it was in the pipeline already. And then they said, well, in order to do that, then they were going to have to start modifying the Army Corps permit and the Fish and Wildlife permits, and they were reluctant to do that and make any modifications to the permit until they had a permit in hand. They didn't want to start messing up the project because then they wouldn't be able to do anything. You see, if you change one period in that plan, a modification to that, and we're experiencing the same thing at Mecox because they wanted a 10-foot wide cut and we wanted the traditional 200-foot wide cut. We stopped them from going ahead with that 10-foot cut, right? We wanted to do a permit modification, and we had realistic reasons for that, right? Everything goes back to square one again. So if they changed that, everything would stop, and you wouldn't get anything dredged there for probably another 2 years. So they felt that, let's do it the way we're going to do it. Unfortunately, we can't go with the crawler excavator option right now until we get the permit, and then they felt more comfortable with making a modification to it after they had the 10-year permit in hand. And that's why,
Okay.
okay? So that's reasonable. That would be the best way of handling the situation. There's not solids, liquids involved as much. You could take the backhoe and place the spoil right there. Done. And it would dry right out in front of that beach. You'd have one small crawler loader moving the stuff around. But if it's coming out in a liquid form, I don't know if you ever seen it, when they're doing beach renourishment.
I'm always
it's
there.
slop.
I live here,
okay?
I'm always there.
It's
I see
slop, and it's just going to go right back in again. So the only thing we can do is move it down the beach and let it dry out.
So what
And
is-
get a big machine in there and start recapturing some of that sand, because they're going to, Ed said they're going to do Middle Pond too. And if we'll have a giant amount of sand, we can move it down in your area. And that's what we've been trying to do all this year. We've done stopgap Band-Aid measurements there, Band-Aid things to get you a beach by bringing our own machines in, hiring people, and bringing the sand back that the highway department's been depositing there because they don't want to put any hardened structures to stop meanwhile, the road just keeps on falling in and falling in. Bring that out a little bit. See, the reason why these rocks went in is because you see the property lines, those lines down into the water? That's what the properties used to be.
I know, I look at that
So that's
all the
why they
time.
put the rocks in, to stop the erosion, so the house wouldn't fall in.
Right.
So that is very obvious that that beach has been eroding for a long, long time. And now it's hitting the rocks. Of course, anytime you put a rock revetment in or any hardened structure, it's going to exacerbate the situation. But that whole area has been eroding for quite a while. The only reason why that property next door, right there, is a shorter distance is because it was surveyed when they bought the property. Otherwise, if you look at old surveys, when they did the tax maps, it'd be right out there extending all those lines in front of Malcolmson's property. Okay, so the solution is to just keep on dredging and unfortunately, sort of like a sand bypass system, and continually re-nourish the beach.
Right, so what is yes, I look at the GIS maps all the time, and I see exactly what you're talking about. You do see when the revetment went in, you do see a more rapid change from the original revetment. What is the time frame? How long do you anticipate it takes from if they dredge in September to when the spoils will be good to move? When should we anticipate?
Month or two.
Month or two, so somewhere, say in November, we should see. Now, how do you get the equipment there? Because now you have to go, it's a
Because in the
mud.
wintertime, the tides are notoriously lower, and there'll be a dry beach at some point, and we can
But
get
it's
the machines
mud,
around.
so can the machines go in the mud?
Tractor loaders.
Because I know we had this discussion before, and it was difficult.
You bring in a machine with tracks on it, you get in there, you build a pad, you start moving some of the sand around, and then you can bring in the bigger tire loaders.
Okay,
run
and if
over that.
about 5,000 cubic yards come from Far Pond, and 10 to 15,000, I think is what you said. Tell
It
me
should
if
be
I'm wrong.
combined about 10 to 15.
Yeah. A
whole
tremendous
entire-
amount of sand on that town-owned piece of property.
So how much material do you anticipate you'll be moving?
That's a hard question.
Yeah, I don't know, as much as it takes to get that beach built up.
Yeah,
That we're fairly confident that it's going to be there for a couple of years. I mean, I don't want to do it, just for 1 year.
Right,
Build
because
it
they're
up.
not going to dredge again for 3 to 5 years,
Right,
right?
right.
And then,
Unless we get a change to that permit that allows for a crawler excavator, and then we could get permission from the county to use their permit, so we could go in with our own machine, with our own HIAT, that we could adjust the channel at any time, every year in the dredging window.
so why don't you put the request in? Put the request in, and if Andrew Walker, if you say, well, he's low and we can't,
Because
if he
the
does, let
county
him
owns
work the
permit.
change.
The county owns the permit.
Right,
The
but you-
county has to make the request. They're reluctant to do it at this time because they're waiting for the DEC to issue a formal 10-year permit, because they do not want to jeopardize their permit and go back to square one and take another 2 years, because if it takes another 2 years, you won't get that done for another 2 years.
No, but it's a different permit. You're looking at going forward, not
Yep.
this permit. And this is where I wish everyone was in a room, because the DEC.
We talk to them all the time, and they talk to the DEC, but the DEC, they have a monthly meeting, okay? They have a monthly meeting to discuss all the dredging projects on Long Island. The DEC, I don't think they have had one yet. They keep on postponing it and postponing it and postponing it. The county's been trying to get a meeting with the DEC for months, and they're blaming it on that most of their staff has been sent out to monitor COVID situations. They got like 3 people in the building now, okay? And
She's right, though. You can get a lot of people in the room and collaborate with people, and then you see where the obstructions are right away, and
Right, I
everybody
know.
has their point of view. And back in the day, when we could do these things, you'd seem to get things done, you'd feel a lot better about it all. So you're correct. You're correct. Instead of, all this back and forth, it's counterproductive.
see, the thing
You're
is,
right.
we're on the front line. We're here. You're face to face with us. You got a bunch of nameless, faceless bureaucrats up there that are not processing permits. And every time you put a permit in, oh, we need this more information, we need this much information, we need this much. Because when you have a stack of papers on your desk, it makes you look like you're very overworked and productive. Okay, so we've been trying, we've been on the phone numerous times with the DEC and everybody else.
Okay, well, but
Okay.
look, I hear you. Look at it from my perspective, as unimportant as I'm not a big player in this whole thing. My conversation with the DEC is that DPW needs a written request from the trustees. They can't make any application to the DEC for anything without a written request, and they haven't gotten one. Now, that could be wrong. I'm hoping they did, but that's, this is why it's so frustrating, and what Scott says is great. Put everyone in, then you know
I
who's.
understand, but what I just said, though, is that they are not going to entertain anything until they get their permit, and then we'll collaborate with them. They don't want to talk about it right now, because they don't want to interfere with their 10-year permit, because they'll go back to right to square one again, with secret determinations, environmental impact statements, public hearings, and all the rest.
But the 10-year permit just started in 2019, so we have to wait till 2029? If they don't, this is where I'm confused.
I
No,
don't think
they
they
don't
have a
want to
10-year
interfere.
permit. That's not what they indicated to us.
The permit was renewed in 2019.
I don't think they have it before the Army Corps yet.
Yeah. The DEC is
All right,
2000.
whatever,
All right, well,
whatever
we'll
it
check
is,
into
it's got to be dealt with. Whatever that term is, it still has to be dealt with to the
You want
satisfaction of
the
everybody.
paperwork?
Sure. Maybe they're not telling us the right story. Who knows? Wouldn't be the first time.
Well,
Okay.
Thanks.
thank you.
All right, we'll get to the bottom of this.
This is Kevin McAllister.
Okay, thanks for your input.
Kevin's up.
Kevin, you want to speak?
Good afternoon again. Kevin McAllister, I'm founder and president of Defend H2O. Just for a point of clarification or confirmation, I reside in Amagansett. Defend H2O maintains offices in Sag Harbor. We were formed in 2014 with the purposes of protecting and restoring surface waters, groundwaters, and associated habitats, wetlands and beaches. I'm sorry?
Basically, you're lobbyists. You lobby for the water.
Oh, it's not lobbying, it's education and advocacy. Lobbying is an entirely different thing. We are a 501c3 organization. Since 2004, we file every year with the IRS 990s, which are certainly accessible, as well as the Bureau of New York State Charities. So if there's any question about bona fides, please bring it to my attention now, because I feel the credibility of myself and the organization was certainly called into question previously. With respect to my specific credentials on this matter, I mentioned to you my training in biological sciences. In Florida, I work specifically in dredge projects, basically doing the biology around dredge projects. So my experience on dredging is on countless projects, both on the ocean front as well as the inshore, the backwaters or bays. Water quality, habitat, wetlands, all associated impacts. You may recall my interest in this project dates back to, I believe, 2019. I attended at least 2, if not 3 meetings physically when we were in the other room. I provided extensive commentary, as well as more recently a couple of Zoom meetings. And you may recall my first, I'll say, weigh-in on this project, I spoke to you about my review of the aerial photos. And actually a point of interest relative to my training in coastal zone management, that master's degree was largely in coastal processes, including erosion control structures. Again, back to speaking to this matter, you may recall, again, I told you I did an analysis of aerial photos through Suffolk County's GIS dating back to the 1960s. I brought that to your attention earlier in the earlier project. And it was my opinion that certainly the structure itself, and again, you know, it's history and we have to move forward on it, but that rock revetment was contributing to significant erosion effects, as well as now we're dealing with accelerated sea level rise. You may also recall that it was my recommendation that the inlet itself be drastically realigned to points west, and that material actually be placed in the intertidal zone. And I recall saying this is thinking outside the box, that DEC with their constraints on their wetlands permits, I mean, for decades for that matter, you know, the intertidal zone is off limits. And when we have quality sand and sediments that are appropriate on the beaches there, we've got to start utilizing that material to ensure that both habitat is intact as well as public access. I went further to talk about the revetment and its acceleration of the fronting beach with erosion under wave attack. And you described that window, the fetch coming through with wave action. You know, if that's the case, and then, you know, I'm sure you line this up, you know, that's a prism for high energy. So it's going to come into play with wave action. That interaction, of course, then you end up with the impacts. I also spoke about end scour, which is widely recognized as a subsequent impact to these structures, that the end continually scours out and starts to unravel. Further bringing it forward, I guess, with respect to the application, we were urging that the permit not be issued, that we were just basically shifting problem further and further. And now we see the results of that. Obviously, the access. And let me be clear on this one point, because, you know, it's continually talked about with the geotextiles and stone. Let's keep some sand over the top of them. Let's plant them. That's just purely cosmetics. The structure is in place. Granted, it may hide the appearance of rock or a geotextile bag, but it is a hardened structure, and once it's in action with wave action, then you know, it's going to do what it does. So with respect to the permit itself, I have looked at actually Dr. Young's representations to you pertaining to that site visit, which I might point out, Ed had invited me to, and Eric, you had uninvited me to. You asked me that, well, basically you told me I could not get on that bus and join the conversation. You know, that was...
No, I said that you could follow us.
Yeah, I could
Go
follow
to
you.
the
I could
scene.
chase the bus around, and no, let's not even waste time on
Okay.
that. But the point is, certainly I saw what was represented to the board. He talked about the rock revetment. I was privy and watched in, I believe it was the April meeting, where you had made representation that Dr. Young recommended that additional stone be placed, that he was on board with basically the permit issuance. That's just completely false. That's not true. And again, if you look at the language that he used He pointed out the implications of that revetment, and he also recommended that sand management, as I had represented to you, 2 years ago, that's what we have to be really focused on. This notion of incremental shifting of that inlet due west, don't waste your time. You either have to be all in on this and try to, one fell swoop, and I might have used those exact words, you shift the alignment drastically, and you pump that material up front. And with respect to this notion that the slurry will just run off and disappear, that's not true either. You have the beach to the east that would at least be a reasonable anchor. You have a low-profile subtidal zone through there. That material will settle out by virtue of machinery creating berms and aligning and trapping sediment. You could build that beach in quickly and move it to points west. So you could actually build out in front of that revetment and fill in Far Pond Road and realign that shoreline. But that's what you have to do. And I have looked at the recent permit. I think it's roughly 5,000 cubic yards. Again, points east. I'm hearing that it has to dry out for months. That's not true. That's quality sediments that can be placed. Again, as you're hearing from the neighbors, the board has to be all in on this and really, I think, communicate to the responsible agencies, Army Corps, the county, DEC. Scott, you speak often about getting them in the room. That's a positive endeavor. But, we have to come to a point where, and I hate to use this term, but, break some eggs. Are there water quality implications with pumping slurry, dredge material into the intertidal zone? Absolutely. But the long-term positives far exceed short-term impacts to water quality. And I guess lastly, been before this board many times. I just cited Defend H2O going back to 2014. I was the Peconic Baykeeper, served in that role for 16 years. This board, prior boards, been before you countless times. I've had countless communications. I come before you, I try to be factual and truthful. I don't speak from the hip. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I don't say it. And I'm telling you, I'm just asking you, I hope to the extent that you value and invite my commentary in these matters, I hope that's the case. And I will keep continuing to show up. I will continue to keep communicating with you individually through emails, trying to bring awareness to these issues and deliver what I feel is expertise and at least some foresight as to protecting these resources into the future. And I guess lastly, public access. And you heard me speak about it before. I know this is the premise of what this board is about. I mean, it dates back a long time, is having access to the resources. We've got to get past these rocks. Notion that we have, the ability to walk on the top of them. I don't mean to be, cute here, but, rappelling gear is not going to cut it. We've got to have bona fide access. And to the extent we keep the structures out of the zone, I mean, that's got to be first and foremost. And then where they are in place and predates the board, we have to manage forward. And ultimately, again, it is, I think, being very creative here and recognizing the short-term implications of a material that is placed in the nearshore, in the intertidal zone, to build out that beach. And then the benefits will be far-reaching and I believe long-term, particularly when going forward it's managed in that way. But again, dispense with the incremental movement. It's just that's just moving the chairs, and it'll be a colossal failure. Thank you for your consideration.
The reason why we went with the incremental movement was because the DEC said they weren't going to be favorable on the moving it back. And neither is the county favorable on moving it back all at once. That, face to face.
Eric, I understand the constraints that the board operates with permitting. Again, I have deep experience in that. But we are at a juncture in time with all the changes, again, beating sea level rise to death here, but our shorelines are changing, you see
Yes.
that. And the DEC has to get out of the box here. The Army Corps has to get out of the box.
Right.
You have a supportive community, you have a supportive non-government entity, agency with expertise, and I will go as far to say a lot more expertise perhaps than some of the agency people reviewing this. So to the extent we bring people into the room, we bring some force to bear, a concerted effort, and not backing off of it because Suffolk County says it's too difficult and they don't want to disrupt the permitting process.
Hey, Kevin, have you notified the DEC and Army Corps and the county how you feel? Or just, maybe you should send them an email what you just repeated to us, to them.
Bill, not in probably a direct way. I will tell you in the past, and this dates back sometime, if you know Sammy's Beach and 3 Mile Harbor, when there was a dredge project probably 15 years ago, that was the first time I had, I'll say, directly urged that material be placed out in the intertidal zone, knowing it was high quality, at least certainly the high energy portion of that dredge cut, the most seaward portion. Instead, they ended up denuding a dune system, building a giant multi-acre dewatering cell, and they ended up putting high-value beach sediments entombed in a dewatering cell that will be there forever. So they didn't budge.
So you expect us to do it, why don't, you should step up to the plate and do it and send.
Oh, I'm happy to do that. I think
You've been preaching to us for the last 10 minutes, you should be preaching to the DEC and the Army Corps to help us.
I'm here to support your efforts to pursue this. You are
Please go
permitting
to the
it
DEC
entity.
and
I
Army
am
Corps.
not.
Right, Kevin?
So let's be clear
Listen,
about that.
I appreciate you acknowledging the Army Corps and the DEC, and I appreciate what you do. I have respect for what it is that you do. In return, we're in a difficult position, as I've been trying to articulate. We're dealing with a lot of this upland zoning and decisions that were made years and years past that are creating a lot of these problems, okay? And this board endeavors to try and solve those issues in a very fair approach. As you admitted, when you mentioned the Army Corps and the DEC, we're like low-hanging fruit, okay? We're trying to, as I like to say, get people in the room so that they can get out of the box, so to speak, so we can articulate what the freeholders have as concerns, the public access, the easements that we hold, so on and so forth, trying to do it in a way that we can be successful at and not be turned over and challenged and minimalized to the point where we're completely decimated. So we have to handle ourselves in a certain way and work with people, and when there's a fair and balanced approach where we can understand all the concerns of the freeholders and protect the environment at the same time, we need to move in those directions. And yes, at times we need to respectfully also draw that line in the sand, okay? I think that, and I am a big collaborator. I would rather these people understand the plight of the trustees and the fiduciary responsibility that we hold so that we can articulate some of what your passion is what our passion is, but we also have to handle it in a more balanced approach towards the environment with the respect, because we know we've had challenges to our own very existence in terms of how we're funded. We don't have an endless source to battle everything. So we need to pick and choose what we battle. We need to stand for the mission and do the best job. And I think everybody on this board does that. Okay? And, I respect what you do, and you've done permitting. This is not an easy seat to be in. And a lot of what we're dealing with are decisions that were made decades past. And a lot of the decisions we deal with now is because we are relaxing environmental codes that the town has put in place and allowing activities to occur in a town that has an infrastructure that is already stressed. The lady sitting in the back said, this is not the way I saw this beach back when I was a kid. I've been here for a long time. I don't recognize the whole town from when I was a kid, okay? I'm sorry. And that's one of the reasons I sit as a trustee, because I care about it. I also understand the forces that I'm dealing with, and this board is dealing with, okay? I've seen it. I've seen it, okay? Lawsuits and challenges to the very existence and funding that disrespect the biggest landowners that there is in this town is the Board of Trustees, the oldest continually elected board in this country, holding these patents dating back to the pre-formation of the country that we have to protect and defend on a lemonade stand budget. Okay? That's the way I see it. I've been here for 4 terms and 2 terms on the other board. So I hear it. I hear what you're saying. I've listened to you for a long time. I know where you're coming from. I get it, and I appreciate you coming here. All I say is just appreciate the difficult positions that we're in, trying to fairly manage these things and remain in existence. Okay? That's all I ask, okay?
Thank
You
you
know,
for your...
what a lot of people don't realize is the passion that these people, this board members have. In the last 150 years, there's only been one person who has moved up to a council position. Once you get on this board, you realize how important it is. And we, frankly, right now are in the way of progress. We're the ones that hold the beach access. We're the ones who own the bay bottoms. We're the ones who are trying to limit development along the shoreline. And, you know, we're in the way. And there is basically no one supporting us. We're out there hanging on our own. The DEC doesn't respect us. They want ultimate power over everything. But we won in court against them. We beat them on that fish license because we joined together with other Board of Trustees. And that's how we did it. Okay? We beat them on Wildwood Lake when they were trying to get in. So, you know, we're ready to go to the mat anytime when it comes to, you know, these important issues that are going to be, you know, impact future generations. And we're here. We're here. We're the ones that everybody's, you know, complaining about, and we're subject to all these other agencies that just like, yeah, 6 years or 7 years, don't worry about it. Meanwhile, you've got a bay that's down to, what was it, 6?
Yeah.
6 parts per million in salinity? You know what that does to shellfish, right? And we had to go, Scott and I had to go, I mean, 15, 20, 30, 40 calls a day for 2 weeks, pulling every trick in the book we could to get anybody, even the supervisor wasn't ready to do a emergency declaration to open up. Even though we have a 1907 act of the state legislature. We need Fred Thiel, who has been there for years, to start passing some, you know, legislation that gives the trustees, which Scott said, the oldest board in the country, some clout to reaffirm the duties and powers of this board. You can't have one nameless, faceless bureaucrat downstairs making decisions of that, you know, 5-member board is more important. And, you know, we don't even have control, we don't even have the same rights to control our budget as I say a million times, a fire district up in the Adirondacks with a broken down pickup truck. They have more control over their destiny and finances than the oldest board in the country. Why? Why doesn't the state legislature and the state senators get off their butt and start doing something?
Makes no sense. Public access is that important, and you know what? Everything's needed for the protection of public access, and our natural resources should be locked down for the people of this community, for the freeholders. It shouldn't be a handshake deal. It shouldn't be, I don't know what, a backroom deal. It should be locked down, okay? We should know. All right, so we've got our challenges. We're doing the best that we can, okay? It's a difficult position, and we're just going to keep.
You know, you see it, just one more thing, I guess what I got off my soapbox. You know, you see it with downstairs, the environmental division goes in and makes someone take out a functioning bulkhead that's on a trustee permit, goes out of the jurisdiction to do it. Then in one case, hardened structures are bad, but go down to the Shinnecock Canal where they just approved a gigantic rock brevet with what, 20, 30-ton boulders alongside there? Come on.
Also on alongside, down on Dune Road.
You know, this erosion's been happening down there for a long time.
We have another gentleman who
Okay,
wants to speak.
one more.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll get off my soapbox.
Couple times coming.
You're not kidding.
Just very frustrating sometimes.
Yeah. And Mark,
Mark Haves, our pond. I've learned a lot, and thank you guys for your integrity and your willingness to try to make something better.
thank you.
I have to ask you one thing. Why can't this town, which has gotten so rich in the last 5 years, not give you the money, the power, the clout? What is holding holding you back? Because I don't think anyone in this room really, we know the lip service that you get back from the bureaucrats, it's got to stop. And the only way it's going to stop is money. And what will it take to get money for you guys to have more power?
People have to talk to the town board and the state legislators to do something.
So I go to Jay Schneiderman's town board meeting and say, the trustees need
Funding.
$350 million.
You can let the.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can let the state
We'll buy our own
legislature
dredge
know
then.
that the
You know,
trustees need to
I mean,
be on solid ground.
I'm not a lobbyist. I'm just a little homeowner. I pay my taxes. I know it goes to the schools, which I'm all for. But access is so important. The health of these waterways is so important. What will it take, guys?
Like what Eric said, we're in their way, okay?
Listen.
We take care of all the fun stuff, the water, the beaches, okay?
And can't they understand that?
They don't understand it. They want to do it. It's just like the five.
Schneiderman wants to do it. And
Well, I
the-
wouldn't
and-
say
and
he
all
wants
the
to
council.
do it,
Well,
but,
he
you
wants
know.
to do it, but-
Well,
He thinks he's a trustee.
silence is, deafening.
There's a reason why there's a separate board that has
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
power,
this
so
is
that
the
we could
checks and
represent
balances that you
everybody.
have here.
We could represent everybody in this community. We're holding the keys to the economic engine and the natural resources. It's, as he said, and the bottom line is, you know what? Look, the governor and the county legislature's been a little bit busy on other things lately, aside from what everybody else's agenda is. I'm a
Yeah.
businessman,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. We were told that.
I'm a businessman. I sit on a lot of other charity boards for a long time, and I've been here for a very, very long time. Okay? I care about this community. I care about this town. It makes no sense to me that we're not at the same level as a fire district or a library, that it's a handshake deal and can be undone at political whims at any point in time. And while I sat on this board, I watched an attempt to defund this board. Defund, not allow any money come from the general fund from this town to funnel anything into the protection of the natural resources or anything that we do, okay? And we had to go through a lawsuit that we lost first and then won on appeals with a lot of research that was done of why we should be able to control our own money, okay? So I've seen it, I've been here, I've done it. It should be locked down for the generations. In the last 6 months, I became a grandfather, okay? I care about my grandson and the future generations of my family. The natural resources and these protections for what these folks want public access should be locked down. It's a handshake deal, okay? There's no guarantees.
What is the budget that you guys have, and what is the budget that the town of Southampton has?
That's a long, lengthy discussion at 4 o'clock. I've been the treasurer of the trustees for a while. You can call me at any time. I'd be more than happy to go through those numbers and not
Minuscule.
bore everybody with that. But listen, whatever it is, it can be quantified. It should be transparent. It should be accounted and protected, and it should be stable. Okay? It shouldn't be at the whims of whatever anybody's idea is at any point in time after an election year. Okay? Who's in power? Who's not in power? Okay? These are our most precious resources of our community. I've been trying to get this locked down in the 4 terms that I've been sitting in this seat. It's a very complex issue, and it becomes what they call political football. Okay? So you put on your helmet and your shoulder pads and you go.
I will try to help.
Okay. Hey, forgot one more thing. They want to move our offices to the basement.
I don't think it matters where.
Oh,
where
it
you're-
does. It does. Come on.
Listen,
It does.
it's 4 o'clock. I'm sorry. You got to
Sure,
speak
go ahead.
from here.
Come
You
on up.
can't yell from over
Come on
there.
up.
That's
Come on
totally
up.
a violation of Charles's rules of
Yes.
protocol. You got to come over
Yes.
here.
Yes.
You don't want to get
This
Charles
poor guy wants to
upset.
talk
He's
about
got to do
crabs.
his job the right way.
I'll just say real quick, okay, that up until a few years ago, the town has always backed us with lawsuits, okay? Since this town was founded, right? Up until the last supervisor was in, all lawsuits are funded only by us, out of our little budget.
Now, one question. The tax map shows his property juts out into the water, 72. If you put a beach there, is he going to try to claim that beach and say no one can get on the beach? So we need to make sure that if the beach goes there.
No,
and
because
it
it's a
says his
town road,
property-
it's a trustee road.
Shinnecock Beach
That beach,
Road, it's a
Shinnecock
50
Beach.
But his property line juts out into the water.
It doesn't matter.
And if you enlarge that and make it a beach,
Doesn't
is
matter.
he going to claim?
Dawn, you want to address that?
money.
You're the attorney.
Also, it's a paper road that's,
No, but his property goes out. His
Yeah, but-
tax
right,
lines
the
go out.
lines go out, yes.
So
But there's
if
also
you-
been, but there's been subsequent law cases, one down in Florida, Stop the Beach Renourishment, I believe it was called. And this was happening in Asheroken also, that if you use public funds to restore a beach, the property owner does not be able to claim that.
Good, so that just want to
Yeah,
make
that
sure
was-
because
that-
he's going to
that's
try.
been
You
adjudicated
know he's going to
already.
try, so you got to.
You want to speak to
No,
the
no,
record?
no.
Now now you got to give
Okay,
him
wait.
the opportunity
Okay.
to get on the record and rebut them.
So how much does it actually cost you to do this job, Scott?
Costs me a lot of money to do this
For the
job.
gigantic
It's
salary of
such-
what?
zero.
20, 21,000,
Definitely costs,
23,000 or
it costs me a lot of money. to do this job.
23,000 a year. And we use our own vehicles, and we pay for our own
If
gas
you
on top
factor-
of that.
If you factor the time, energy, and effort it goes in to sit in this seat, and there's a lot of erosion on your own personal life and your body.
Tell me about it.
I'm Steve Malkinson. I own 72 Far Pond Road. And I'm going to start by correcting a lot of misinformation and factually incorrect things that have been said today. So in November 2019, when my permit application came before the board and the community came forward and suggested that we needed a more comprehensive solution to the problems at the end of Far Pond Road and tabled the permit, I have, as I think any board member that has spoken to me personally knows, and any community member that has spoken to me personally knows, I have been 100% in favor of a long-term comprehensive solution to the problem. So let there be no confusion about that. Anyone in this room that has bothered to speak with me knows that to be a fact. That's number one. Number two, any implication, and there have been implications, if not direct accusations by a few people, that this permit application that was changed over the course of more than a year was snuck into an agenda, or somehow public input was not solicited, couldn't be further from the truth. This permit application came before the board 10 times over the course of a year. It was tabled on numerous occasions. On occasion, there were discussions. No community member, this was all public information. Now, I'm not criticizing community members for not showing up, but I just want to make it clear, the implication has been made that there was some kind of backroom deal and that this new permit application was snuck into an agenda at the last second and voted on. Couldn't be further from the truth. Further, as regards the meeting on August 2nd, the working session, we were not invited specifically. The reason we came is because we knew that this discussion was on the agenda for the regular board meeting on August 2nd. It was apparently delayed as a request of the community members from August 2nd to August 16th. We noticed by checking the website that it was, there was going to be a discussion at the working session, so we came. We were not specifically invited to the exclusion of any other community members, just so that record can be clear. We showed up as interested community members, just as everyone here is, and we showed up on our own volition and because we looked at...
Hold on, now he's got the floor.
Adjustable. Adjustable.
Okay.
Okay. So we came to that meeting because we saw that it was on the agenda and it was relevant to us, not because we were given special privileges or specifically invited. Now, as to, I've been the property owner for 4.5 years. I cannot speak with certainty to the state of that property before 4.5 years ago. I was not acquainted with it. But I know better than anyone what the state of the property has been and that beach for the last 4.5 years. Since I bought that property, there has been no beach. Until the action was taken, well, first last year when the trustees plowed some of the sand over, and then again this year, there was no beach to the extent that at high tide, the water came underneath the juniper trees adjacent to the side of the property. So there was no beach. So it wasn't, the idea, there may have been a beach that existed there more than 4.5 years ago, but there has been no beach there for the last 4.5 years. So that needs to be made clear. The suggestion, fundamentally, the creation of new land, which exists behind the newly permitted rocks, where maybe there was a beach 6, 8, 10, 20 years ago, I don't know, but that land was paid for and deposited by me. It was not plowed over. It is not my property. It is the trustee's property. This is not a land grab on my part. That land that has been created is community property. It's not my backyard. So any suggestion that it is or that I consider it my backyard is inaccurate. That land was created, as was the hillside, and the plantings that were done there to, in part, protect the side of my property. Those rocks were there to, in part, protect the road, which has eroded dramatically over the last 5 years, which is a benefit to the entire community, for which the Highway Department has done nothing. So it's important that the record be made clear on all those points. The new rocks that have been permitted, which are low, they run about maybe 18 inches above mean high tide. Have not affected public access to the beach east of 72 Far Pond Road, 1 iota. So just to be clear, there has been no change in the access to the beach east of 72 Far Pond Road for at least the 4.5 years that I've owned the property. And the addition of those rocks have not in any way impacted the access or the lack of access to that beach. So whatever problem has existed relative to the access of that beach east of 72 Far Pond Road has been a long-standing problem at high tide. Now, for 4.5 years ago, when I bought the property, at high tide, the water was typically 3 feet up on those rocks. So I don't know exactly when there ceased to be land access at high tide, but unless water level went up, 3 feet overnight, it seems to me that it was a substantial period of time ago. So all I'm suggesting is that this issue of access to the beach east of 72 Far Pond Road is not a new issue, and the permit that was granted to protect the road end and the side of the property and recreate land which had been lost has not impacted access to that property and that beach east of 72 Far Pond Road one bit. So this issue has been longstanding and is in no way related to the permit granted by this board. The problem is complex, as we know. I do understand that the rocks on the south side of 72 Far Pond Road, which have been there for 35 years, have been a contributor to the problem. The problem has also been created, as has been discussed, by the eastward migration of the channel, and it's been exacerbated by wave action. But that rock revetment was permitted in the late 1980s, and for better or worse, it is long-standing, and I think, as this board has previously discussed today, the job is to balance the protection and the rights of the property owner with the shoreline and the interests of the community. I am all in favor of that, and I don't stand opposed in any way, shape, or form. But those rocks have been a part of the shoreline for 35 years. Lastly, to the issue of damage, to the extent that there is any, on the western side of Far Pond, which is alleged to have been created by the construction that was done and the contractor that I engaged, I dispute in the strongest terms that that was done by my contractor. I was there. I may have mistaken the dates when I spoke on February 2nd as to whether or not it was late February or early March, but I was there throughout. The contractor was very careful. He placed, when he had, before he moved the excavator into the bay, he placed plywood on the side of the road to be careful that the side of the road would not collapse, so he was well off the margin. And he was extremely careful in everything that he did. It is a constant problem that trucks sometimes inadvertently get to the end of a dead-end road, and sometimes they're substantial-sized trucks, and they have to pull into my driveway at 72. They have to back out. They have to jigger around 3 or 4 times because it's a dead end and it's a very tight corner. And just the other day, there was a landscaping, pickup truck pulling a big trailer, and I should have taken a motion picture, a video of it. He was in and out, 3 or 4 times, backing well off the margin of the road on the western boundary and into those shrubs. So I think that those, and we have photos from prior years that show, not with precision, the amount of damage that has been done there, but it's been done over time by vehicles that constantly, sometimes trucks that get to the end of the road and have difficulty maneuvering around. I have, just for the record, been in touch with the only 2 community members that I know have been part of this effort, for which I have been happily interested in being engaged, because, as I have said, I am in favor of the long-term comprehensive solution. And I have offered to replant there in spite of the fact that I did not feel I was responsible, nor was my contractor responsible, and all I wanted was to be included, which I made clear, in whatever the group is interested in, and to be told that I wasn't going to be sued, not that I felt there was any possible grounds for me to be sued, but I do understand nuisance suits can occur, and all I wanted was to be included on what was going on and to be assured I wasn't going to be sued, and I would voluntarily remediate that problem, which I didn't think I was created. I was met with crickets, not so much as a response to my offer. So In closing, I just would say I am in favor of the comprehensive solution. I don't see my interests in opposition to the community members. I have no interest in reclaiming the property under the bay bottom, which shows up on in spite of what's been said here today, that I'm looking forward to reclaiming the property which is under the bay bottom if a beach is restored. So I'm not exactly sure why I am viewed here as the enemy. And I just wanted I apologize for being long-winded, but I wanted to set the record straight on some misinformation and some accusations that have been made which are not accurate, and to let my position to be known.
Just a question. When you say that you were going to revegetate, but you wanted to be included and not be sued, were you looking for some type of a release signed, or were you just looking for a verbal?
I have only been, the door to my office, so to speak, has always been open. Anybody, and I have frequently spoken with people at the road end, just as they've come down.
I'm just trying
Yes.
to,
So, just to be clear, the only thing I have ever received is an angry email and text message from 2 members of the community. They're the only people I've had contact with. So I responded to each of them, and I could show you the email and and I just said that I was not responsible. All I need, please let me know what's going on, and if you.
I understand, but it just seems to me, sitting here listening to you, that you were trying to extend some form of good faith, is what it seems to me.
100%.
Okay, so that being said, maybe, try it again with no strings attached, if that's the way you feel. If you feel that, look, I'm going to fix this, I didn't do it, it's not my contractor, but you know what, whatever. Maybe it'll help. You know what I'm saying? Listen, you do what you want. I'm just listening to you as a board member, trying to keep things cool and get things resolved and try and make it all work out for everybody. And I understand, you want to get along with the neighbors. I love to see people working together. That's all. I was just wondering what it was that you were looking from those folks, that's all.
I just wanted to know what was going on.
I get it.
And not be sued.
I understand. Nobody wants to be sued, and they like to be included. You do what you feel is right, but it sounds to me that in your heart, you wanted to do something in good faith to try and mend some fences. What it sounds like to me, that's all. If I'm wrong in my, impression, then that's fine, but it seems to me like you wanted to do something out of your heart in good faith and try and build some rapport with your neighbors. I think at the end of the day, everybody is more aligned than they are apart. We're all for public access. We don't want to have these, frustrations going on. We want to live, with good quality of life, and that includes the relationships that we have with the people in our communities and our neighborhoods. And whatever it is that we can do to foster that, I think is a positive thing. That's all. You guys you're all adults, you do what you got to do. We're going to do the best that we can do. But that being said, thanks for your comments.
How many dollars will it take to put the
You can't,
5,000?
you can't
Wait,
speak from there. You
come
got to
on
go
up,
back
come on
over
up,
there.
come on up.
You're going to have Charles coming out yelling at us all.
How many
We don't want him
dollars
yelling
will
at
it
us.
take to put that beach back into shape, so
Man,
people can get
Those are heavy questions.
We haven't
to ask
got an
you.
estimate on that yet.
Yeah, that's a heavy
So
question.
5,000 cubic yards of sand that will eventually be dredged out and onto, is there a number that?
You can't ask questions like that and expect an answer in
Well,
5
it
minutes.
depends on if
Where the
we
sand
can
comes
use
from.
some of our own machinery to do it. So it might be half and half. We don't know yet until we.
You can't shoot from the hip on this stuff.
No, we hired a contractor that
Couple of
moved the
days.
beach. The last 2 times, it was $1,900.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's.
I think-
and if
So
we-
let's say you put a limit of
If you have to go
$10,000
through that
on it.
pocket, this
No.
community has to do something.
I don't think you have to worry about that.
But if
The
we,
trouble is-
we have a
Go ahead, Ed.
a marine maintenance guy that has a CDL license and can operate heavy machinery. So if we can
Yeah.
borrow a machine from the highway or from the town
Or rent
waste
it.
management, we could do it on our own. So, I mean, it's not a lot of money. It's just having the material there and doing it.
If we didn't have to
biggest cost.
maintain roads that we don't even own.
I heard that from
Yeah.
the last meeting.
Right.
Yeah, the big cost is getting it dredged, and once we get the
Yes.
sand, the material, like Ed says.
That's easy.
That's, moving the sand and making the beach is the easy part.
Yes.
The access, which is very important.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hopefully, like I said, we'll have this next discussion
Yeah.
while the dredge is working.
We haven't started our permitting yet, it's already quarter after.
Yeah, but we got to.
But we also have some other things.
Yeah, we
There's some
do.
other people here that want to speak here,
He's
too.
got this guy, he's waiting for his crabs to grow.
Yeah. Is there anybody else
Okay.
that would like to address the board about Far Pond?
And by the way, you can come up at any meeting for a discussion, open discussion.
Yeah, just a really quick question, if I could. So what are the rules associated with previous permits? So you have a homeowner bought a house 3 or 4 years ago, aren't they still bound by the permit requirements of the previous homeowners that had built the revetment or built other structures?
The permit
Yeah.
directly goes with the property, yes.
Yeah.
Right. So then anything related to public access as part of that permit, which you had said was there,
Was there?
It's supposed to be-
Specifically on that permit? Because there was a beach there at that time. I don't
No,
know.
I would have to look at, I have not looked at the original permit from the 80s. I looked at the one that we had granted after Sandy, and it was
Okay.
on there.
and it
So
was
I
on
would
there.
have
So
to
then
do some
he's-
more
So then
research.
there would still be a requirement
Yes,
for that public access.
right.
Okay.
5-foot passing way, and we pulled up the bridge, and we have that. I will have Jessica edit it or whatever, and look at it, and send it to me, make sure there's no information that I can't share with the public, and I'll send it to you for your question about the bridge, okay?
Well, I'm also talking about the...
No, I'm talking about the bridge also, because you had asked that
That
question.
was Laura.
Yes, and the other,
Right, but the real bottom line is, if I buy a house tomorrow, I'm still bound by any
Yes.
permits that somebody else
right,
signed.
it
Yes.
goes with the property, not the owner.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Good, thank you.
Okay, this,
Anyone else?
yeah.
Okay, we're whittling everybody down. What were you here for? Were you here for
Crabs.
the crab permits? The crab?
Rich Stevens.
Okay.
Stevens. He's
Okay.
afraid to talk now.
Did someone leave their phone up there?
We don't bite too hard.
Oh,
That's
think
the
that's
remote control.
harmonica.
All right,
Would you
so
like to-
so let's move on to the next discussion.
Yeah.
That's Richard Stevens' use of hydraulic haulers for retrieving dredges in the crab fishery.
Yeah, where to start now? I guess I'm here to ask for your consideration in changing one of your laws. Originally, I had sent you the email about, it would be 2 laws, it'd be for the clam rake and the crab dredge. Basically, the use of mechanical means to lift them up. In your laws, it states we can't use, it's allowed to dredge, we're just not allowed to use a mechanical means to lift it.
How heavy is the dredge?
He can explain it to you. He's got all the dimensions.
Yeah,
and-
how
My
heavy?
dredges are relatively small. They
How heavy is it?
Probably 60 pounds.
Heavier than a scallop dredge?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
They got teeth on them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They have teeth.
You have
and,
a picture of one?
Excuse me?
You have a picture of one?
I do not.
Okay, makes 2.
Okay.
What's that?
I don't have one either.
It's not something you can readily buy. It's people usually make them themselves.
Yeah,
and,
come different sizes.
part of the problem with lifting it by hand is the amount of trash that you get involved with. You know, let alone if it's not trash, it's natural bottom. You know, deckers, rocks, you name it. It's virtually impossible. You know. I don't know how the guys did it back in the way back when, but it's
There's less trash in the bottom.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
in order to, we have to have a public hearing to change it in the blue book. And at the same time, I would want to look at using haulers for the clam rakes. Because we do get a lot of complaints from, guys who want to use the haulers, guys who don't want to use the haulers,
Right.
guys who want to use the haulers when there's no wind, guys who, want to use the hauler all the time. We have to find the middle ground.
right.
I mean, Ed's very experienced in this. He would probably have to step aside. That way, he's not, the other basemen don't give him a hard time because he works on the
Lifting the
bay.
apparatus?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
for towing, not
Some of
towing.
this,
Not
Yeah,
towing.
but it-
I had sent you guys
increases
an email
the
earlier in the
activity.
year
You can cover
about it
more
all.
area and everything, so.
And I dictated New Jersey's law
You know,
Yeah.
that allows all this, and they have, they have regulations involved with it, which New York State does not have any regulations on crab judging. But it wouldn't hurt to even put them in. It's,
That's what we have to,
This
really
way you
sit
can just
down
keep on going and going and
and
going.
do it,
Okay.
Get two board members to do it,
Raritan
and
Bay.
look at it with our town
with more
attorney,
hand
to see
time.
what's fair, then have to have a public hearing. You have to come up and speak, the people who are for it, the people who are against have a chance to get up and speak.
Okay.
So you find the, the boundary, the balance in between it. The same thing with the clams, like today, I was down on the bay looking, it was flat calm. And I saw a boat, guy was out there clamming, I could see him move, okay? He was out there a couple of days ago and it was windy. I saw him move,
Right.
I know that day he was still using his outboard, okay?
That doesn't have anything to do with haulers, though.
No, it does, but he's using the hauler with the.
But it's two different
things.
scenarios there.
But it increases
We
your,
should
it
get that
increases
straight.
your
Yeah.
productivity other than by physical means.
Yeah.
Yes, it could, yes, that's true.
Of course, 'cause you can work all day long.
It's all about efficiency, right?
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
And, and I realized the clammers,
but
the
there's also
people, the baymen are getting older, but, they need the haulers, but then you have the young guys taking advantage of it. You have a few guys taking advantage of it, that's the trouble.
Well, I think we're talking about two different things here, though.
Yeah, we are.
Right.
We're talking about, at the whole
There's one
same,
power,
Yeah.
and then there's one,
but it's all gonna be in the
The-
same,
what I'm saying has
Yeah,
nothing
but the
to do
reason
with
why you
power.
want the hydraulic is so that you can
Lift.
pick it up more
Just
times than you would physically be able to in a
And
day
when you-
if you were
when
doing
you-
it physically.
Right, so if we,
Right,
yes.
right,
Entirely correct.
right.
Okay.
So you're increasing your productivity.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
also when he's tow dredging, he's gonna tow the rake longer, and he can't lift it up because it's full of stuff. It's
Not
easy.
necessarily, you could put it down and have it full of stuff in 2 seconds.
Right, depending on the bottom.
Depends
Same
on
thing
the
with,
bottom.
same thing with scallop
Well, the
dredging.
state does allow haulers on crab dredging. They have no restrictions on size other than the teeth spacing, and I believe that's
No, they
it.
don't, state doesn't even have a restriction on teeth.
They don't have,
They don't have there's no regulation
Oh.
in New York State on crab dredges.
I think ours is 3.5 inches.
I don't think town even has any regulations except for, I could be wrong on that one, I don't remember.
Yeah, Brookhaven has some rules on it.
3.5 inches,
Is that what it is?
and there's no size limit on the width of the dredge. Ours, I believe, is 36 inches.
Mhm.
I believe that's what it is. And it's all pulled by hand.
Right, which is probably why nobody does it, because it's just not gonna, I don't know how that even got put into your law, or why it did, If you allow crab dredging, it kind of doesn't make sense in my world, or most people's world who fish, of why you couldn't use power to lift it up. Because
Back in the day, they used sail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wooden boats and Iron Men.
That's right, that's right, I was actually gonna say that
Well,
before.
I mean, I think if you got a few other baymen that would agree to, putting this forward as a proposition so that we can have a public hearing,
Right.
I think that would be the best
Yeah, that's it.
avenue.
There were people gonna come today, but they
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 gotta
go
be
away,
living.
they go this, they
Yeah.
do that, work.
Well, you got to prioritize. I mean, you got to sit almost 3 hours and
Right,
listen
yeah.
to,
I learned about your guys' misery.
yeah.
Yeah, you
to
want to
many,
run? You want to run,
problems.
please?
It's all you.
But it's good
God
to
bless
hear, it's good to hear from people that harvest and do the fisheries and their concerns and their wants and their needs so that we can address it properly.
Yeah, and it's not an easy job, we
No,
realize that.
no. So,
We have to find the thing, I think the best thing is to get the Bayman Association, are you a member of them, the Bayman?
I keep asking about it, and last time I know, they haven't had a meeting forever,
Yeah,
and I
Maybe
don't know
now.
if it's something that just fell apart.
yeah,
Well,
maybe,
COVID
you
made
get
it
a hold of the
difficult.
president and see
Yeah.
Well, I
what's going
did, I did talk to him, and it kind of didn't go anywhere,
on. Yeah.
so.
It is-
This is probably why I'm here by myself
Right,
doing
but,
this.
but in fairness, I mean, a lot of organizations have been challenged with the
Yeah.
current
Yeah.
environment and the COVID and everything. It really made it hard for a lot of
Respecting
people.
anybody,
Yeah.
I mean, they actually have had something in the past, I'm sure, but as far as I know, it's.
They were very active. A lot of people were more active than they are now. It just got very tough.
Normally, we get basically a letter or a couple baymen come in after a meeting discussing a topic, whether it's transplants or tow raking, churning, crab dredging, or whatever is on their agenda, and they ask us to discuss it, and we'll discuss it. And then if, we think it's something that's viable to move forward, then we'll schedule a public hearing, and then we'll, get the science, because I know we had Cornell do some research for the crab dredging, and pretty much, they were doing it on a statewide level, and I believe, and also looking at what they do in the Chesapeake, so.
Right.
And we don't have
Chesapeake.
the Chesapeake crab, ability here,
Right.
Some years you have a lot of crabs, some years you have none, and basically, crabs are very short-lived, species, so, so, being that said, I would try to get a hold of the president of the Baymans Association. I believe it's still Willie, and, have a conversation with him and a couple other Baymen that are interested in, if you can get a group, it's much better.
Is that, so, I guess I'm a little confused on moving forward with it. I hear what you just said, but I originally tried to go through Willie, and it kind of went dead-ended, so I think his last email to me was good luck.
I don't think it's something as a board that will take this one individual's,
You need a group,
Should I get,
2 or 3 guys.
Yes.
can I write something up and get signatures from people, yes or no,
Yes.
whether or not?
Yeah.
Or
Or
biased
yes.
opinion?
Okay.
Start from
Get a
there.
consensus of the Baymen, that's what, when I was on the Baymans Association, it was very active. We would have, 15 or 20 or 30 guys, and if something was popular, or like moving bugs, scallops from some part of water to another part of water, we would, bring it before the trustees and, as a group.
Is it possible that, say, without going through Willie at the moment,
Yeah.
is it possible to get a list of the names of the commercial baymen from
You have to-
trustee's office?
You have to foil it.
I just put a foil request.
Fill out a paperwork.
It's a Freedom of Information Act. In order for us to give that to you, we would have to redact all of their personal information, so you would just get the names and the phone numbers or emails. I believe we have all emails on all the fishermen, correct?
You know
So-
Sam Rispoli?
Yeah, well, that's a bad subject there.
All right, well.
Sorry to say, but
Don't talk about that.
Yeah, I think we could furnish you the names and the emails of the Baymen so that you can contact them.
But yeah, he would have to foil it.
But you'd have to foil it, yeah.
I mean,
Well,
Sam-
what-
Sam knows
I've never
everybody.
personally met Sam,
Yeah.
but from the things he's
Let's not go there.
gone.
Yeah, let's,
Yeah, let's,
Yeah.
yeah.
But this is why I wanted to, if you tie the haulers for the clams in it, then you get more of a, people to help you,
Okay,
okay? Because hauling clams with the hauler now in
Right.
Southampton is against the law.
right.
Okay? And there's a lot, you got a handful of people who want to make it legal. You have a handful of people who don't want to make it legal.
Okay, yeah,
Then you can tie that all together with the crab, because basically it's the same thing,
right.
hauling the dredge. Because we also had people who wanted to be able to haul scallop dredge with a hauler.
Right.
yes.
Okay? So, it'd be easier for us to do it all at one time,
Okay,
Yep.
you know?
all right. So,
That way you'll get your energy you need from the other baymen there to help you. And you can help them on their course.
it's funny that you say this to me, because this is one of my first ideas to do back, in February or March, whenever this
Yeah.
originally started. And, I don't know, this is where it's become now, so it's,
Yeah.
felt like a lot of wasted time went by, but, at least we're moving
happens.
forward at this point.
Yeah, yeah, it takes time.
Positive with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to figure out how to do it,
Yeah, I'm definitely not into politics. so.
Okay.
Thank you for your
All
time,
right.
guys.
All right,
Sorry
thanks for
it
coming.
took you so
Have a
long.
nice day,
Yeah.
thanks for, yeah, thanks
Take
for.
care.
Did you want to give each one of the trustees one of these? You have copies, right? I took one for the record. You had copies.
All right.
Yeah, I
You
asked
wanted
them to make
circulate.
copies
It might
of,
be backwards, little redundancy.
It's all right.
Written, but
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
my best on
Thank
that
you.
one, and-
here you go.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Have a good night.
Okay, let's go in for application to permits.
I got one in my truck.
You do?
Okay, application,
Yeah,
Got one
minute.
more discussion?
oh, yeah, we're going to table that.
We've run out
Okay.
of time.
I got not enough time. I have to discuss with,
3430.
okay. Resolution, are you ready, Jessica?
One,
Yeah, okay, just let me know when you're ready. No big deal.
or no, but, all right, I am ready.
We're not going to
Go
do
ahead.
public portion?
We had public
Oh,
portion.
my God.
I said,
Open it and close it.
yeah, open it and close it. Okay.
Nobody
There's no
here.
one here. Applications
stood
for
there.
permits.
I got one thing to say.
Resolution 2021-184.
We still have to open it even though.
What?
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
opening public portion.
But
Second.
for the,
All in favor?
aye, but for the record, there is nobody
Right.
here because they've already spoken their mind
Yes.
and gone home to have dinner where we'll be having midnight buffet.
Well, as you recall, we did skip over so we could have public portion
Oh,
first.
one thing really quick before you go. 2 Seagull Hill Road, that spelling is correct.
The what?
I emailed James, and that is according to the tax map.
Right.
It's weird because
And the
it's
deed is also.
What, both people have different names?
different names. I have it here.
Melissa Shoreline.
Oh, okay.
So that is correct how it is
Okay,
written, so
I
you
just
don't
thought it was
need
a
to do an
typo.
amendment.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before we power through.
The
Thank
names
you,
are so
Jess.
similar, it looks like it's just another,
Yeah,
I was
Renee and
confused
saw
too.
the same thing, because it
Okay.
was on their application as that, and we were like, let's check something, and we checked the deed, and we put it.
Thank
know,
you.
put it-
Oh, okay.
Th-
Right.
th- Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your vigilance.
Yeah, no, we thought it was weird, but
Okay.
that's what's on the deed, so.
First resolution is 2021-184. It's for, oh, no, wait.
First renewal?
Yes, the first renewal for 9 at Pucker Point Lane, West Hampton, New York. Okay, I make a motion to be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I got 2021-185. It's the application for Shinnecock Shores, Suffolk County Tax Map 0900 395-1-001.000. I recommend that we approve this permit. It's for their 50-foot-long groin wall.
Second.
Ed seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Got 2021-186, the second renewal for the Wayne C. Walser Revocable Trust, Suffolk County Tax Map 0900 172-1-114. Nothing has changed. I suggest we renew it.
Second.
And seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2021-187, application of John A. Paganucci, 9 Washington Drive, Hampton Bays, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-259-2-43.22. I recommend that we approve this project at 9 Washington Drive. Hampton
Second.
Bays.
Ed seconded, all in favor? Aye.
This one, 2021-188, I have to make a motion to amend it because there is an error.
Okay, do we have a second on it?
Second on the amendment.
Okay, Ed seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
If you recall, this project had a prior issued permit. It was attached to the damaged docks at the Murphy's Cove
Right,
facility, and the
right.
gentleman came in and he had all the prior paperwork, but there's an error here. So it should read, Richard Most of 50 Shoreline Drive, requests the Board of Trustees of the Town of Southampton authorize the President, Secretary to sign a permit to replace 2 20-by-60 docks plus appropriate pilings, materials to be tropical hardwood throughout. So the big change is that he.
220 by 6 foot.
220-by-6, yeah.
Yes.
220-by-6. He had 2 prior permitted, and the board agreed that it was fine.
Right,
So,
right.
We did receive the updated application sheet from him.
Right.
That's how it was.
Yeah, here's his copy here.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to,
Second.
Ed seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
next one is 2021-189. It's a first renewal for Sunset 60 LLC, tax map 0900 372-1-10.4. No changes. I suggest we renew this permit.
Okay.
Second.
Ed seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have 2021-190. It is the first renewal of Whitehall Cap Investors, Suffolk County Tax Map 0900-372-1-10.3. It is a first renewal, no changes. I suggest that we renew this permit.
Second.
And seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have 2021-191 is another renewal. Alexander and Anna Haluka, 45 Weston Avenue, East Quogue, tax map 0900-373-01-7.2. First renewal, I request that we renew this.
Second.
Okay, Ed seconded, all in favor? Aye.
I also have trustee resolution 2021-192. It is another first renewal, Major Look LLC for Fair Oaks Drive in the Village of Quogue. Suffolk County Tax Map 0902-6-1-16.3. I request that we renew this permit.
Second.
Okay, Bill seconded, all in favor?
I have a third renewal. It's 2021-193. It was a third renewal of a catwalk on Quantuck Bay. It's Quantuck Beach Club, Inc. And I recommend that we renew this permit.
Second.
Second.
Bill seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee resolution of 2021-194, application for Stephen Ting, 82 Little Neck Road, Shinnecock Hills, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-234-4-15, body of water, Old Fort Pond. This is what I had mentioned at the hearing when we were talking about 65 Cliff Drive, basically removing a bulkhead and regrading and revegetating the shoreline. So we went through this in work session. I recommend its approval. I need
Second.
Bill seconded, all in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2021-195, renewal first for the town of Southampton for 33 Beach Road, Hampton Bays, tax map number 900-364-1-2, body of water, Shinnecock Bay. This is the Shinnecock Commercial Dock. I would like to have the fees waived, if at all possible, by our board, because it's another sister agency, so I need, is everybody in favor of that?
It's for the town?
It's for the town, yes, commercial fishing dock.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we worked on work session, I recommend its approval. And-
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Bill seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
You got another one there?
Yes.
Yep, 196.
Renewal first of 2 Peconic Crescent, Shinnecock Hills, Suffolk County, tax map number 900-191-04-11, body of water, Cold Springs Pond. We worked on this at work session. Recommend its approval.
Second.
Bill seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Trustee Resolution 2021-197. Application is Joseph Lippert, 374 West Neck Road, North Sea, tax map tax map 900-110-1-1, body of water is West Neck Harbor. We did this through our work session. I'd like to have this approved.
Okay. And seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2021-198. Application is Marcus Ducci, 35 Water Edge, North Sea, tax map 962-1-3, body of water, Fish Cove. Like to have this approved.
Second.
Ed seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2021-199, this is a third renewal for Growly Pond LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map 908-3-2-3, body of water, Sagaponack Pond. This is Phragmites Management, a renewal for that permit. I'd like to recommend its approval.
Second.
Bill seconded, all in favor?
Aye. Trustee Resolution 2021-200, this is a second renewal for Bruce Schultman and Melissa Schulman, permit number GP 0000065, Seagull Hill Road in North Haven, Suffolk County Tax Map 901-6-1-15, body of water, Poles Creek. This is a second renewal. We've thoroughly worked through it at work session and approved it. I'd like to recommend its renewal.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Scott?
Yep. I have trustee resolution again, 2021-176. It's the home rule message in support of the trustees' tax line.
I think we ought to table it
I
until we
don't-
get some more.
I think it has to be tabled because I think that the state legislature actually is a little bit off focus right now in terms of what's going on. I don't know what your
Yeah.
thoughts are, Sean. I mean, I'm firmly in favor of sending home rule message to the legislature and see where people are at on firming up the Board of Trustees. The environment right now with what's going on there, I'm not sure people are going to focus on this.
Right.
So,
As I said, my concerns were that we talk to
Yeah,
senators first and find out where he's coming from.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
they've been a little preoccupied with
Yes,
the
yeah.
current events
Agreed.
that
You
were
don't
going
wanna
on.
get it lost in the shuffle.
No,
I
it's going to
understand.
get lost in the shuffle. So I would say let's table this.
Do you just want to expand on what it is a bit, even though we are?
Well, what it is that in order for the trustees to be able to move forward in the state legislature to acquire a line on the tax bill so that it's clearly transparent to all the taxpayers, the answer to the gentleman's question that I asked a little while ago about how much money is sent over, it would be very clearly listed there. He would be able to look at his tax bill and see that. And then it would be something that is solidified, with the transparency, as opposed to, I don't know what right now, negotiation, whatever. So I think.
We might have a little bit of a clear direction on what's going on after our meeting with the supervisor on the 1st, or whatever that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
September.
basically, this is a message. What has to happen is there has to be, as per the rules of the legislature, there has to be a home rule message sent by our town board to our state assemblyman, which is Assemblyman Fred Thiel, and our state senator, which is Anthony Palumbo, so that they can move these bills forward, and then it has to be signed by the governor. So, it's a bit of a lift, but this is like a first step. And, my view is that, and I'm, again, as pointed out, I like to collaborate with people. It should be, the town board and the town trustees on the same page in locking down what's important and what's needed for the protection of natural resources and public access, okay? Will we know to the penny when we send a home rule message? No, we won't know to the penny, and that's why there's a phase-in period of these things, but it would be good to gain that authority, and it would be good for the trustees, in my view, to be at least on par with the fire district. That's not totally what we're talking about, but I also do understand that you gotta kind of crawl before you walk and walk before you run. I get it. I do think we need to, we need to work on this in a collaborative fashion for the success of the trustees, for the benefit of the generations and the environment.
Agreed, but I just had concerns that it wasn't, that it ultimately doesn't control to the fullest extent of what we really need.
The environment, it doesn't seem very good right now anyway.
Well, we don't know. Now we have a new governor coming in, so it might, it might be a change.
I just think that
There's also a question of whether we do need a home rule message there. We are recognized corporate body politic by the state constitution.
Well, I don't
So,
have it in writing, like people will look, I don't have it in writing, but I've been told time and time again that we need it.
Yeah.
And I've, verbally, I didn't say to the senator, excuse me, what can you put that in? I mean, I think they've sent it here in writing saying we're requesting this, so they've sent it to us in writing saying they're requesting it. I don't think they would do that if they didn't need it. I
I know,
understand.
but in my conversations with upstate, is that this all comes down to one person who makes this decision.
Right.
An attorney that works for the Senate makes the decision of whether you need a home rule message or not.
We can
Yeah.
right, we can speculate on all types of things, but I think just in the simplest of common sense, as I stated earlier, the biggest landowner in the town, oldest continually elected board, charged with the responsibility of protecting and defending public access on the outer beaches and the economic engine of
Right.
the community, natural resources, should at least be on par with the fire district, as
Yes,
you pointed
yeah,
out.
I've been in favor of this
I
for
just think
many,
it's
many
common
years.
sense, but let's table this and let's continue to work.
I just don't like
And
the
Scott-
language in it.
Sean, you think that's fair?
Sure. The town board has a schedule for their agenda for 8/24. I can go to them and ask if you'd like them to table it as well or withdraw it based on this.
Just
board's
tell them to table it because we haven't spoken to Senator Palumbo yet.
Are we supposed to have a discussion with the supervisor, I think, in the first week of September? I
Yes,
believe,
we're supposed to
right?
have it on the
So,
roads, and we're supposed to have it on facilities.
I think we need to collaborate on a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that collaboration would be to the benefit of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So timing is everything, and right now, the timing, we need to have a collaboration. I mean, if you disagree, Sean, I appreciate your,
Notably, I believe they're looking for a home rule request at the state level because it would likely require a referendum, AKA being on the ballot in November.
who said that?
A referendum now?
Who said that? That I've never heard.
Potentially, I'm guessing that's the timing of this?
That's never been a discussion, no. No.
Okay.
So if you have somebody definitive, because no one, they've said that, no, it's too complex, it's just.
Okay, I'm
No.
saying if that
Nobody
were
would
the case.
understand it.
Yeah, no.
You'd be out of that time frame by now? You would require at least
No,
90
no.
to 120 days lead time?
Yeah, not a referendum.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so my motion is to table this for now,
Okay.
based on the current.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Trustee Resolution 2021-201, resolution authorizing Chesterfield Inc. to open up an inlet from the ocean to Sagaponack Pond anytime during the time period of August 16th, 2021, up until and including December 15th, 2021. Whereas the Board of Trustees are owners of the land commonly known as Sag Pond, and whereas Sag Pond is at a flood stage and is in danger of flooding neighboring homes and land, and whereas in order to avoid such flooding and raise salinity, the trustees desire to open Sag Pond so that the water will flow freely into the ocean. Whereas the laws of New York in 1892 and 1907 provide the trustees with the authority to open an inlet from the ocean to Shinnecock Bay or Mecox Bay from into.
Yeah, you can't put that in there because that law doesn't apply to Sagaponack Pond.
Right.
you got-
So can
Move to
we,
amend and strike.
You have to amend,
can we amend
you have to recall
Yes,
it.
strike
And-
it. They can-
and strike the paragraph
Make a
beginning?
motion, Ann makes a motion to amend, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Now,
So
what's your amendments?
strike whereas laws of New York.
Yes.
Ending with, or Mecox Bay as necessary.
Yep.
Do we have to vote on that now?
No, you vote on the overlying
Okay,
you're
cool.
amending it right now.
So
Sorry, where are you striking?
the
Striking the-
third paragraph,
There,
fourth paragraph,
whereas.
thanks. Laws of New York in 1892.
Okay, strike that whole paragraph.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then move to adopt as amended, continuing, whereas Chesterfield's Associates holds a current contract with Suffolk County for dredging, and whereas when goods procured from a valid state or county are legal, applicable federal or cooperative entities, a contract exceeding the mandatory bidding threshold, a resolution authorizing the purchase must be submitted and approved. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes Chesterfield Inc. to open up an inlet from the ocean to Sagaponack Pond anytime during the time period of August 16th, 2021, up to and including December 15th, 2021. I'd like to
Second.
request this.
I have
be
a quick
approved.
question. Is this multiple openings, so we don't have to keep going?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay,
that's the
this
whole
is,
purpose of
that's,
this.
that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah, thank James.
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
So I'd like to recommend this be approved.
Second.
Bill seconded it, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Do you have any updates on the water quality in there? Somebody asked me that the other day.
So I know I'm very current with Surfrider. There's high bacteria, high enterococcus bacteria in there.
Yeast.
Let me double check
Yeah.
on.
Okay, and then
I'll
just send an
get
email.
back to you.
Okay.
Yep.
I need to walk on a resolution. I'd like permission to walk on a resolution.
Yes.
This
For a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay, I need to walk on 2021-202. It's warrant number 14 of 2021. It's for $6,064.67. It is as follows. Advance Auto Parts, $17.99. BNB Bank, $21.71.22. Carlin Jacks, $59.97. Safe Harbor Publications, $44.20. Fisher Signs and Shirts, $3,254.60. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, $200, and our Verizon Wireless bill for $316.69. I just need to get that approved before.
Second.
Ed seconded, all in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Do you have another one?
that's all I have.
That's it?
I have one other thing. I had a request, if someone wanted to put another bench down at the south end of Agawam in the bioswale area. I kind of looked it over, and I don't think there's any more room. If we did put another one, we would have to cut into where the bioswale is. And I don't, those benches there were already donated once, so we can't take one and move it.
Yeah.
So I was going to suggest to the person if they wanted to put a osprey pole on the other end of the,
Is that too close?
no, it's not too close, because there's poles, there's osprey nests closer than that,
Oh, okay.
up in Scarlet Pond in West Neck. They could put a plaque on that for the,
They should also put branches on the top of them when they put them up.
yeah,
What about the Eastport dock? Is there any more room?
I'll tell you why we
I
can do
mean,
with
if
that.
you want, you know.
How
And you
about
should
the
put a
Eastport
separate
dock?
pole up for,
The new one that we just built?
I'll ask if they want to do it up there. I think the people are from Southampton Village.
Oh,
I
okay.
want to stay out there.
Yeah,
yeah, but
Okay.
I think the-
Fred has it balanced now.
yeah,
That was his-
he did a good job on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't really want to mess
Oh,
that
yeah, I
up.
was telling there's no more room.
Yeah, so I'll go back and tell him that.
All right.
Yep. Okay.
Sag Pond will be open tomorrow, opening after 5 PM so as not to interfere with the public bathing beach use.
Okay. All right, well, we covered a lot of the issues this morning in executive session. I have some more, but we can put that off. I'll,
Is it imperative? I
no,
mean, is it
no,
drastic?
it's not time sensitive. I'll
'Cause it's, you know,
I'll draw up a summary so everybody can look at it, so they know exactly where we are and I'll talk to you in between meetings, each individual member. Okay? County, you're gonna have to talk to the county.
County, I shouldn't have
Absolutely.
Sean? All right. we'll
Well,
do-
Yeah,
Well,
I
I'm
mean-
gonna talk to the homeowners association first.
Okay.
And then talk to the county.
I mean, it is a county issue, and the
Yes.
county, it's definitely a county issue. The county should be front and center on this
if they
thing.
own the bottom, push that down.
They completely.
And you could ask the town if they're in violation of laws there, but if it's definitely a county issue.
Well, I know Marty and Teresa at Conservation Board didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, but I don't think it's,
Do you
it's,
want to do a quick executive session in reference to this? Because right now, we're still in public session.
I just wanted everybody to be aware of what was going on, so I'm gonna make. a
Okay, well,
phone
maybe
call.
we'll let Charles go, and we'll just go
All right.
into quick executive
All
session.
right.
So I make a motion that we close the
Second.
meeting and go into executive session for potential litigation.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.